Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're exploring what if Goku had Frieza's potential from birth. This concept is absolutely broken. Frieza reached 120 million power units through pure genetics, no training needed. Now imagine that same ridiculous potential in Goku's pure heart. We're talking about someone who could casually hit millions as a kid while still being the kind-hearted hero we love. So we took this concept and created an epic 12-chapter journey where Goku discovers his alien heritage, accidentally becomes the strongest being alive, and eventually ascends to cosmic guardian status alongside a reformed Frieza. Pure power meets pure heart in the most insane way possible. Smash that like button, subscribe, and hit notifications because you don't want to miss this. Alright, let's dive in. The crimson sky of planet Vegeta pulsed with an ominous energy as King Vegeta stood atop his palace balcony, his scouter crackling with interference. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The device had been malfunctioning for the past hour, displaying power readings that defied all logic and reason. Impossible, he muttered, crushing the scouter in his gauntleted fist. 3 separate devices had given him the same impossible reading from the lower-class sector, a power level exceeding 50,000. From an infant. Miles away in the slums of the Saiyan homeworld, Bardock cradled his newborn son with trembling hands. The baby Kakarot appeared normal enough. Wild black hair, tiny tail wrapped around his father's wrist, and the characteristic scowl of a Saiyan warrior. But appearances could be deceiving, and Bardock's battle-hardened instincts screamed that something was fundamentally different about this child. Jin, he called to his mate who was recovering from the difficult birth. Look at him, really look. Jin approached cautiously, her maternal instincts warring with an inexplicable sense of unease. As she drew closer, the very air around Kakarot seemed to shimmer with barely contained energy. The metal walls of their modest dwelling groaned softly, as if responding to an invisible pressure. His power level, Bardock whispered, consulting his own scouter for the dozenth time. It's not possible. The readings keep climbing. 45,000, 48,000, 52,000. The device sparked and died, following the fate of countless others throughout the lower sectors. Kakarot gurgled innocently, unaware that his mere existence was sending shockwaves through the planet's power detection network. His tiny fist clenched, and for a split second the air around him crackled with golden energy before fading back to normal. Across the planet in his floating fortress, Lord Frieza reclined in his hover chair, a wine glass of alien vintage in his delicate fingers. His own advanced scouters, far more sophisticated than the crude Saiyan technology, had been monitoring the anomaly with growing interest. Zarbin, he called sweetly, his voice carrying that deceptively calm tone that preceded his most violent outbursts. Yes, Lord Frieza, the blue-skinned warrior materialized with practiced haste. Tell me, my dear Zarbin, what do you make of a power reading of 53,000 from a newborn Saiyan monkey? Frieza's tail twitched with barely contained excitement and rage. Zarbin's face paled to an even lighter shade of blue. My lord, that's impossible. Even the Saiyan elites rarely exceed. Exactly. Frieza's voice dropped to a whisper. Impossible. Yet my instruments don't lie. He crushed the wine glass effortlessly, the purple liquid dripping between his fingers like blood. It seems the monkeys have produced something unexpected. Back in the lower sectors, Bardock's mind raced through the implications. He had seen the future, glimpses of what was to come, visions of his son grown strong, defending a distant world. But this power level suggested something far beyond his prophetic dreams. This wasn't just strength, this was potential that defied the natural order. We have to hide him, Bardock decided suddenly. If Frieza discovers, his words were cut short by the distant sound of energy blasts. Through their window, they could see ships descending from orbit, Frieza's elite forces, already beginning their inspection of the lower sectors. Jin clutched Kakarot closer. They're coming for him, aren't they? Bardock nodded grimly. His scientist friend Jocko's warnings about Frieza's paranoia suddenly seemed prophetic. The galactic tyrant had been systematically eliminating any potential threats to his rule, and a Saiyan infant with this level of power would be seen as the ultimate threat. The space pod, Bardock said, moving with desperate efficiency. We launch him now before. The wall exploded inward, revealing a squad of Frieza's soldiers led by Dodoria himself. The pink alien's beady eyes immediately fixed on the infant in Jin's arms. Well, Dodoria chuckled, his scouter beeping frantically. So this is the little anomaly that's been causing such a stir. Hand over the baby, Saiyans. Bardock stepped protectively in front of his family, but even as he powered up, he knew it was hopeless. His power level of 10,000 was impressive by Saiyan standards, but Dodoria exceeded 22,000. I don't think so, Bardock snarled, launching himself at the pink alien. The battle was brief and brutal. Bardock's experience and tactical mind kept him alive longer than expected, but Dodoria's superior power eventually won out. As Bardock crashed through their remaining furniture, Jin made her desperate gambit. "Kakarot," she cried, channeling every ounce of her modest power into a protective barrier around her son. The infant's power responded to his mother's distress, and for a moment, just one terrifying moment, his true potential flared to life. The entire building vaporized. When the smoke cleared, Dodoria stood amidst the rubble, his armor cracked and his expression stunned. The power surge had exceeded 75,000 from a baby. But the Saiyans and their child were gone, vanished in the explosion of raw energy. "Find them," Dodoria roared to his subordinates. "That infant is more dangerous than 100 elite Saiyans." Unknown to Frieza's forces, Bardock had managed to drag his family to his hidden laboratory in the chaos following Kakarot's power surge. Working with fevered desperation and the advanced technology he'd salvaged from various missions, he made modifications to a standard Saiyan space pod. "The power suppression array," he explained rapidly to Jin as he worked. "I've reverse-engineered it from one of Frieza's own devices. It should seal away most of Kakarot's potential until he's mature enough to control it." Jin watched as her husband attached strange crystalline components to the pod's interior. "But what if it's not enough?" Bardock paused in his work, meeting her eyes. "Then we pray that whoever finds him has the wisdom to guide him properly." He placed the finishing touches on the suppression system. The seal is designed to crack gradually as he faces genuine challenges. His power will emerge, but slowly, giving him time to develop the character to handle it. As if summoned by their conversation, the sound of approaching aircraft filled the air. Frieza's forces had tracked them down. "Go," Jin whispered, kissing her son's forehead one final time. As she did, a strange warmth seemed to flow from the baby as if blessing her. "Grow strong, but grow kind, my little Kakarot." Bardock sealed the pod and initiated the launch sequence just as Frieza's soldiers broke down the laboratory door. The pod shot into space with a blinding flash, its trajectory set for a distant, primitive world called Earth. "No!" Dodoria screamed, firing energy blasts at the rapidly disappearing pod. But it was too late, the child was beyond their reach. Back in his fortress, Frieza watched the escape on his monitors with a mixture of rage and calculation. "Interesting," he mused, his white lips curving into a cold smile. "It seems one little monkey has slipped through my fingers." His expression hardened. "No matter, I'll deal with this anomaly later. First, let's ensure no more surprises emerge from this rock." The order was given that night. Planet Vegeta would be destroyed ahead of schedule. As Kakarot's pod hurtled through space, the suppression array hummed softly, containing power that could reshape the universe. The infant slept peacefully, unaware that he carried the potential of a destroyer deity in the innocent heart of a Saiyan warrior. The pod's navigation system had been programmed with one final gift from Bardock: coordinates to a world where the inhabitants valued strength of character over strength of body. If his son was to become the legendary Super Saiyan of prophecy, he would need to learn more than just how to fight. He would need to learn how to choose. Behind him, planet Vegeta began to glow with the terrible light of its final moments. Frieza's death ball hung like a malevolent star above the doomed world, ready to eliminate what he believed to be the last of the Super Saiyan bloodline. But in the depths of space, sealed within a pod traveling at incredible speeds, slept a baby whose power would one day eclipse even Frieza's worst nightmares. The potential was there, vast and terrifying in its scope, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The universe was about to change forever, though it would be years before anyone, including Goku himself, would understand the true magnitude of what Bardock's desperate gambit had unleashed upon the cosmos. As planet Vegeta died in flames behind him, Kakarot dreamed of golden light and infinite possibilities, his tiny fist clenched around a power that would reshape the very meaning of strength itself. The anomaly among Saiyans was free, and his legend was about to begin. The morning mist clung to Mount Paozu like a protective shroud as Grandpa Gohan made his way through the forest, following the sound of splintering wood. It had been 3 months since he'd found the strange space pod and the baby inside. 3 months of increasingly impossible incidents that challenged everything he thought he knew about the world. "Goku," he called out, using the Earth name he'd given his adopted grandson. "Where are you, boy?" A distant crash answered him, followed by the unmistakable sound of a massive tree falling. Gohan quickened his pace, his martial artist's instincts alert for danger. though experience had taught him that the greatest threat in these woods was often the child himself. He found Goku in a small clearing, no bigger than most children his age despite being barely a toddler. The infant was examining a fallen oak tree with the curious intensity only children possessed, completely oblivious to the fact that the ancient giant had been uprooted by what appeared to be a single tiny handprint embedded deep in its trunk. "Goku," Gohan said carefully, approaching slowly. Did you push this tree?" The baby looked up at him with innocent dark eyes and giggled, clapping his hands together. The sound of his palms meeting created a small shockwave that rustled every leaf in the clearing. Gohan's trained eye caught the telltale shimmer in the air around the child, the same mysterious energy he'd been noticing with increasing frequency. It was subtle, barely perceptible, but it reminded him of the Kai aura of a master martial artist operating at full power. Except this was coming from a toddler who hadn't even learned to walk properly yet. "Come here, little one," Gohan said softly, extending his arms. As Goku crawled toward him, Gohan noticed the grass beneath the baby's path was pressed flat, as if compressed by tremendous weight. Yet Goku himself felt perfectly normal when lifted, perhaps a bit heavier than expected, but nothing extraordinary. As they walked home, Gohan's mind wandered to the strange pod he'd hidden in his storage shed. The technology was clearly alien, far beyond anything Earth's scientists could produce. But more disturbing were the crystalline components built into its interior, devices that hummed with energy and seemed designed to contain or suppress something. That evening, as Gohan prepared dinner, Goku played quietly in the corner with wooden blocks. The old martial artist had carved them himself, proud of his craftsmanship, but he watched in bewilderment as Goku absent-mindedly compressed one of the blocks into a perfect sphere with just his tiny fist. The wood didn't crack or splinter, it simply reformed under the pressure, as if reality itself was yielding to the child's will. "Your parents," Gohan murmured to himself, stirring their simple meal. What kind of people were they? As if responding to his thoughts, Goku suddenly looked up from his toys, his expression unusually serious for such a young child. For just a moment, his dark eyes seemed to flicker with an inner light, not quite golden, but something deeper, more fundamental. The wooden blocks around him began to vibrate slightly, and Gohan felt the hairs on his arms stand on end as the very air grew thick with potential energy. Then, just as quickly, the moment passed. Goku returned to his innocent playing and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. But Gohan had seen enough to confirm his growing suspicions. This was no ordinary child. That night, as Goku slept peacefully in his crib, Gohan sat in meditation, trying to make sense of what he was experiencing. His master Mutato had taught him to sense Kai, the life energy that flowed through all living things. Most people possessed only a tiny spark, barely detectable. Trained martial artists could cultivate and focus this energy, achieving feats that seemed impossible to ordinary humans. But Goku was different. When Gohan extended his senses toward the sleeping child, it was like trying to peer into an infinitely deep well. There were layers upon layers of energy, most of it locked away behind what felt like artificial barriers. Yet even the small amount that leaked through was staggering. "What are you hiding, little one?" Gohan whispered into the darkness. His answer came 3 weeks later on a night when the full moon hung heavy in the sky. Gohan had always been a light sleeper, a necessity for any martial artist, but the sound that woke him was unlike anything he'd ever heard. It was a low, rumbling growl that seemed to shake the very foundations of his house. More alarming was the Kai signature accompanying it, a massive, primal energy that dwarfed anything he'd ever encountered. He rushed to Goku's room, expecting to find intruders, but the sight that greeted him defied all rational explanation. The baby's crib had been reduced to splinters. Goku himself stood in the center of the wreckage, but he was changed. His small body was wreathed in a faint golden aura, his dark eyes had taken on an otherworldly gleam, and the air around him crackled with barely contained power. "Goku," Gohan called softly, not daring to approach. The child turned toward him, and for a terrifying moment, Gohan saw something ancient and terrible lurking behind those innocent eyes. The wooden floor beneath Goku's feet began to crack and splinter, spreading outward in a spider web pattern. The walls groaned ominously, and Gohan realized with dawning horror that the house might not survive whatever was happening to his adopted grandson. Then, as if a switch had been thrown, Goku blinked and everything returned to normal. The golden aura faded, his eyes cleared, and he reached up toward Gohan with the trusting gesture of a child seeking comfort. "Grandpa," he said, his first words spoken in that moment of supernatural calm. Gohan scooped him up immediately, his heart pounding as he surveyed the damage. The room looked like it had been hit by a tornado, yet Goku seemed completely unaware of what had transpired. He snuggled against Gohan's chest and fell asleep almost immediately, leaving the old man alone with his racing thoughts. From that night forward, Gohan began keeping a journal, documenting every strange occurrence, every impossible feat, every moment when Goku's true nature seemed to peek through his innocent facade. The pattern that emerged was both fascinating and terrifying. The child's power appeared to be locked away behind some kind of artificial seal, but that seal was imperfect. During moments of strong emotion, joy, surprise, even mild frustration, small amounts of energy would leak through. When Goku laughed too hard, windows would rattle. When he reached for something just out of grasp, objects would slide toward him as if drawn by an invisible force. When he slept, the temperature in his room would fluctuate wildly, and Gohan often found frost on the windows in summer or strange, warm spots in winter. Most telling were the incidents involving the local wildlife. Animals seemed to sense something different about Goku, not threatening exactly, but undeniably powerful. Bears would approach him with the cautious respect they showed to apex predators, yet birds would land fearlessly on his shoulders. It was as if nature itself recognized him as something beyond the normal order of things. 6 months after the full moon incident, Gohan made a discovery that changed everything. While cleaning the storage shed, he accidentally knocked over the alien pod, causing several of the crystalline components to crack. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Every piece of glass in the house shattered simultaneously. The ground beneath the shed split open, creating a crevice several feet deep. And Goku, who had been napping peacefully inside the house, began to glow with that same golden aura Gohan had witnessed before. This time, however, the transformation lasted longer. Goku's Kai signature spiked to levels that made Gohan's trained senses reel in shock. If he hadn't known better, he would have sworn there was a master-level martial artist. No, several master-level martial artists standing in his house. Working frantically, Gohan managed to repair the damaged components using techniques Mutato had taught him for working with Kai-infused materials. As the last crystal was restored to its original state, Goku's power level gradually returned to normal, though Gohan noticed it didn't drop quite as low as before. The seal was weakening. That evening, as Gohan tucked his adopted grandson into bed, he made a decision that would shape the course of both their lives. "Listen to me, Goku," he said softly, though he knew the child was too young to fully understand. "You have something inside you, something incredibly powerful. I don't know what it is or where it came from, but I can see it growing stronger every day." Goku looked up at him with those trusting dark eyes, and Gohan felt his heart clench with protective love. "I'm going to teach you to control it," he continued. "Not to use it, that will come later when you're ready, but to understand it, to make it part of who you are instead of something that just happens to you." As if in response to his words, a gentle warmth seemed to emanate from the child, not the overwhelming power he'd witnessed before, but something softer, more controlled. It felt like approval. Over the following months, Gohan began incorporating meditation and basic Kai exercises into their daily routine. Goku was remarkably receptive to the training, displaying an intuitive understanding of energy manipulation that bordered on supernatural. More importantly, the lessons seemed to help him gain some measure of control over his abilities. The random power surges became less frequent, though they didn't disappear entirely. Goku learned to channel his excess energy into harmless activities, lifting boulders that should have been impossible for a child to move, or practicing forms that generated small whirlwinds of displaced air. Gohan marveled at the sight of his toddler grandson performing martial arts techniques with the precision of a seasoned master. But it was during one particular training session, as Goku attempted a basic Kai manipulation exercise, that Gohan truly understood the magnitude of what they were dealing with. The exercise was simple: focus internal energy into the palm of your hand and maintain it for 30 seconds. Most students took months to achieve even a flickering spark. Goku created a sphere of golden energy bright enough to illuminate the entire mountainside. The orb pulsed with power that made Gohan's most advanced techniques seem like candle flames in comparison. More alarming was the fact that Goku maintained it effortlessly, examining the miniature sun in his palm with curious wonder rather than strain. "Very good," Gohan managed, his voice carefully steady despite his inner turmoil. "Now let it fade slowly, just like we practiced." Goku nodded and began to withdraw his energy. The golden sphere dimmed gradually, shrinking down to a barely visible spark before disappearing entirely. But Gohan's trained eye caught something that sent chills down his spine. Even at its dimmest, the energy had retained its golden coloration, something he'd never seen in all his years of martial arts training. That night, Gohan sat alone on his porch, staring up at the stars and wondering what cosmic forces had brought this extraordinary child into his life. Somewhere out there, among those distant lights, was the world Goku had come from. Were there others like him? Was this power normal for his species, or was Goku unique even among his own kind? More importantly, what kind of beings had the technology to suppress such incredible potential? The pod's crystalline components weren't just random alien technology, they were specifically designed to contain and gradually release enormous amounts of energy. Someone somewhere had anticipated exactly this situation. As if summoned by his thoughts, Goku appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleepy eyes. "Can't sleep, Grandpa," the child said, his vocabulary having expanded remarkably in recent months. "Neither can I, little one," Gohan replied, patting his lap. Goku climbed up and settled against his chest, and Gohan marveled at how normal this felt despite everything he'd witnessed. "Grandpa," Goku said after a moment of comfortable silence. "Yes, why do I feel different from other people?" The question caught Gohan off guard. He'd wondered when Goku might start to notice his own uniqueness, but hearing the child articulate it so directly was both heartening and heartbreaking. "What do you mean by different?" he asked carefully. Goku was quiet for a long moment, apparently searching for the right words, like there's something big inside me waiting to come out. "Sometimes I dream about flying and bright lights and people fighting with energy like we practice, but much bigger." Gohan's breath caught. "Dreams or memories? And sometimes," Goku continued, his voice dropping to a whisper, "I hear voices. Not scary ones, sad ones, like someone far away is trying to tell me something important, but I can't understand the words." Gohan pulled the child closer, his heart aching with protective instinct. Whatever Goku's origins, whatever power slept within him, whatever cosmic destiny might await him, there was one truth that mattered more than all the rest. "You're different because you're special," he said firmly. "And being special means you have a choice to make as you grow up. You can use what makes you different to help people, or you can use it to hurt them. The power inside you isn't what defines who you are, Goku. Your choices are what matter." Goku looked up at him with those unnaturally perceptive dark eyes. "Will you help me make good choices, Grandpa?" "Always," Gohan promised. "No matter how big that feeling inside you gets, no matter what dreams you have or voices you hear, I'll be here to help you understand them." As if in response to his words, a warm breeze stirred around them despite the still night air. For just a moment, Gohan could have sworn he felt other presences nearby, not threatening but watchful, protective. As if unseen guardians were listening to his promise and finding it acceptable. Goku fell asleep in his arms shortly after, but Gohan remained on the porch until dawn, holding his extraordinary grandson and wondering what the future would bring. The seal in the alien pod was continuing to weaken, he could sense it even from here. Soon, perhaps within the next few years, Goku's true power would begin to emerge in earnest. When that time came, Gohan was determined to ensure that the child would be ready, not just in terms of raw ability, but in character. Whatever cosmic forces had shaped Goku's potential, whatever destiny awaited him among the stars, he would face it with the heart of a protector rather than a destroyer. The sleeping giant was beginning to wake, and Grandpa Gohan would make certain he woke up as a hero. As the first rays of sunlight painted Mount Paozu in warm golden hues, a color that seemed to resonate with something deep inside the child in his arms, Gohan made a silent vow to the universe itself. This power would be used for good. Whatever it took, however long it required, Goku would learn to master the incredible gift he'd been born with. And when the time came for him to leave this peaceful mountain and face whatever trials awaited him, he would do so not as a weapon of destruction, but as Earth's greatest protector. The legend was taking shape, one careful lesson at a time. The crowd at the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament roared with excitement as Goku stepped into the arena, his orange gi pristine under the afternoon sun. 3 years had passed since his training with Kami, and the young Saiyan had grown into a powerful warrior, or so everyone believed. What they couldn't see were the crystalline fragments embedded in his body, legacy of the alien pod that had brought him to Earth, still working tirelessly to contain the vast ocean of power that threatened to overwhelm his mortal frame. Across the ring, Piccolo Jr. stood with arms crossed, his cape billowing dramatically in the wind. The crowd's cheers died to nervous whispers as they recognized the spitting image of the Demon King who had terrorized the world just 3 years prior. "So," Piccolo said, his voice carrying easily across the arena, "you're the one who killed my father. I expected someone more impressive." Goku settled into his fighting stance, but something felt different today. The familiar weight of his weighted clothing seemed insignificant, and there was a strange tingling in his chest, like electricity building before a storm. "I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago," Goku replied, his voice steady but carrying an undertone that made several spectators unconsciously step back. Piccolo's enhanced hearing caught the subtle harmonics in Goku's voice, frequencies that shouldn't exist in any earthly being. His dark eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that." The referee, visibly nervous about overseeing a match between these two titans, raised his hand. The final match of the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament begins. Now, Piccolo launched himself forward with incredible speed, but Goku was already moving. They met in the center of the ring with a thunderous impact that sent shockwaves through the arena, cracking the reinforced stone tiles beneath their feet. For the first few minutes, the battle proceeded as the crowd expected, two master martial artists trading devastating blows with precision and power. Piccolo's reach advantage was countered by Goku's superior speed, while Goku's raw strength was matched by Piccolo's tactical brilliance. But as the fight intensified, something began to change. In the stands, Kami felt it first, a massive Kai signature beginning to stir within Goku like a sleeping dragon awakening. "Impossible," he whispered, his ancient eyes wide with recognition. "That level of power. It's not natural." Master Roshi, sitting nearby, noticed his former student's increasing intensity. Goku's movements were becoming more fluid, more instinctive, as if he was accessing fighting knowledge he'd never learned. And there was something else, a faint golden shimmer around his aura that definitely hadn't been there during their training. In the ring, Piccolo was beginning to realize he was in serious trouble. Each of Goku's attacks was hitting harder than the last, and the Saiyan's power level seemed to be climbing steadily. More alarming was the look in Goku's eyes, still kind and determined, but with an underlying intensity that spoke of vast depths yet unexplored. "What are you?" Piccolo demanded, launching a barrage of energy blasts. Goku deflected them casually, his movements almost lazy in their efficiency. "I'm Goku," he said simply, but his voice now carried harmonics that made the arena's support beams vibrate sympathetically. That's when Piccolo made his critical error. Frustrated by his inability to land a decisive blow, the demon spawn decided to end the fight with overwhelming force. He began channeling his full power into a single, devastating attack, the same technique his father had used in their final battle. "Special beam cannon," Piccolo roared, the spiraling energy drill blazing toward Goku with enough force to level a mountain. For a split second, time seemed to freeze. Goku saw the attack coming and instinctively reached for more power to deflect it. In that moment of desperate need, something fundamental shifted within him. The crystalline suppressors that had contained his true nature for over 20 years couldn't withstand the surge of desperate determination. One by one, they began to crack. The change was instantaneous and terrifying. A pillar of golden light erupted from Goku's position, visible for miles in every direction. The special beam cannon, an attack that could pierce through the strongest defenses, simply ceased to exist as it encountered the expanding aura of pure energy. In the stands, every scouter in the arena exploded simultaneously. The few alien spectators who had come to observe Earth's strongest warriors fled in panic, as their equipment registered power levels that shouldn't exist on this primitive world. When the light faded, Goku stood in the center of a perfectly circular crater 20 feet deep. He looked exactly the same, but everything about him had changed. His Kai signature now registered at levels that made Piccolo's impressive power seem like a flickering candle. The crowd was silent, struck dumb by the impossible display of energy. Even the experienced martial artists in the audience couldn't fully comprehend what they had witnessed. Piccolo, to his credit, didn't flee. But his hands were shaking as he stared at his opponent. "Your power level," he whispered, "it's over 100,000, that's impossible for any Earthling." "I'm not from Earth," Goku said quietly, the truth finally crystallizing in his own mind. Memories that had been locked away began to surface, fragments of his true heritage, visions of a crimson sky and a proud warrior race. "I never was." The revelation hit him like a physical blow. All his life, he had known he was different, but he had attributed it to his training, his dedication, his pure heart. Now, standing in this arena with power coursing through his veins like molten fire, he understood the truth. He was an alien, a member of a warrior race that had been destroyed when he was just a baby. And somehow, someway, he possessed power that dwarfed even the strongest fighters on Earth. Piccolo, sensing that his opponent was distracted by this moment of self-discovery, launched himself forward in a desperate last attack. It was a mistake that nearly cost him his life. Without thinking, without even looking, Goku caught Piccolo's fist in his palm. The impact that should have shattered bones didn't even make Goku's arm tremble. I don't want to hurt you, Goku said, his voice carrying a strange echo that seemed to come from vast distances. I never wanted to hurt anyone. For the first time in his existence, Piccolo Jr. felt genuine fear. Not of death, he had been prepared for that possibility, but of the cosmic forces he was witnessing. This wasn't just about strength anymore. Goku's power felt unlimited, as if what they were seeing was merely the tip of an iceberg that extended into infinity. Then surrender, Piccolo managed through gritted teeth, still trying to pull his fist free from Goku's casual grip. Goku's expression grew sad. I can't, too many people are counting on me to stop you. He paused, studying his opponent's face. But maybe I don't have to. With movements too fast for the crowd to follow, Goku spun Piccolo around and placed a hand on the demon's back. Instead of delivering a devastating attack, he began to channel his Kai in a completely different way. Piccolo's eyes widened as he felt something impossible happening. The malevolent energy that had driven him since birth, the hatred and thirst for conquest inherited from his father, was being purified, not destroyed or suppressed, but transformed into something cleaner, more focused. What are you doing to me? Piccolo gasped. I'm not sure, Goku admitted. It just feels like the right thing to do. The crowd watched in stunned silence as golden energy flowed between the two fighters. When it stopped, Piccolo staggered backward, his expression confused and lost. I don't understand, the former demon said. The rage is gone, the need to destroy, to conquer, where did it go? Maybe it was never really yours to begin with, Goku suggested. Maybe it was just something you inherited that you don't have to keep. Before Piccolo could respond, Goku delivered a swift strike to his opponent's solar plexus, precisely calculated to knock him unconscious without permanent harm. Piccolo crumpled to the arena floor, defeated but alive. The referee, who had been cowering behind the announcer's booth during the energy display, cautiously approached the crater. The winner of the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, Son Goku. The crowd erupted, but their cheers were mixed with uncertainty. They had come to see a martial arts tournament, not witness what appeared to be godlike power beyond their comprehension. In the stands, Kai watched with tears in her eyes, suddenly understanding that the man she was about to marry carried burdens and responsibilities she couldn't even imagine. Master Roshi stroked his beard thoughtfully. Jackie Chun had faced Goku in the past and recognized his potential, but this was something altogether different. His student hadn't just grown stronger, he had awakened to his true nature. Kami materialized beside the old turtle hermit, his expression grave. We need to talk, the guardian said urgently. All of us. What happened here today changes everything. As Goku climbed out of the crater, helping the unconscious Piccolo to his feet with surprising gentleness, he could feel the stares of everyone in the arena. Some looked at him with awe, others with fear, and a few with barely concealed suspicion. Goku, Krillin called out, running toward his best friend. That was incredible, how did you? He stopped mid-sentence as he got close enough to see Goku's eyes. They were the same dark orbs they'd always been, but there was something new in their depths, a vast awareness, as if he was looking at the world from a completely different perspective. I'm still me, Krillin, Goku said softly, recognizing his friend's uncertainty. I'm still the same person who trained with you under Master Roshi, I just understand more about myself now. But that power, Yamcha said, approaching more cautiously. Where did it come from? Goku looked down at his hands, still trying to process what he had experienced. The golden energy was gone, but he could feel it waiting just beneath the surface, like a vast reservoir he had only barely tapped. I think it was always there, he said finally. I think something was keeping it locked away, and today the lock broke. Tyne, who had been watching from across the arena, stepped forward. His trained eye had caught details that others had missed. That technique you used on Piccolo, where did you learn it? I didn't learn it, Goku admitted. It just felt like something I needed to do, like I remembered how to do it from somewhere else. The implications of that statement sent chills through the assembled martial artists. Goku was describing abilities that seemed to come from racial memory or genetic programming, the kinds of things that belonged to species far more advanced than humanity. Dr. Brief, who had been in the VIP section with his wife and daughter, was frantically scribbling calculations on a napkin. The energy readings his portable instruments had captured before they overloaded suggested power levels that could potentially threaten entire planets. Sung Kun, he called out, his voice carrying the urgency of a brilliant scientific mind grappling with impossible data. We need to run some tests. If your power continues to grow at this rate, it won't, Goku interrupted, though he didn't sound entirely certain. I think I can control it now, or at least I'm learning to. But even as he spoke, small golden sparks continued to dance around his aura, visible only to those with the sensitivity to perceive Kai. The suppression system that had contained his true nature for over 2 decades was completely destroyed, and now his Saiyan biology was finally free to express its full potential. Piccolo, regaining consciousness, looked up at Goku with an expression of profound confusion. "Why?" he asked simply. "Why what? Why did you save me? Why didn't you just destroy me like you did my father?" Goku extended a hand to help his former enemy to his feet. "Because you're not your father, and because I think maybe we're going to need all the strong fighters we can get." Something in his tone suggested that Goku's awakening had brought with it more than just increased power. There were hints of knowledge, of cosmic awareness, of understanding about threats that existed beyond Earth's peaceful blue sky. As the crowd began to disperse, and the tournament officials tried to figure out how to repair an arena that had been fundamentally altered by raw energy, Goku stood quietly in the center of the destruction, his mind racing with new questions and responsibilities. He was no longer just Son Goku, the cheerful martial artist from Mount Paozu. He was something far more significant, a being with power that could reshape worlds, carrying the genetic legacy of a proud warrior race and facing a future full of cosmic implications he was only beginning to understand. The 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament had ended, but for Goku, it marked not a conclusion but a beginning. The first crack in his power seal had been opened, and there would be no going back. Above them all, in the depths of space, automated monitoring systems belonging to various galactic empires registered the energy spike from the small blue world in the outer rim. Reports were filed, flags were raised, and attention began to focus on Earth, a primitive planet that had just announced to the universe that it harbored power beyond imagining. The cosmic game was about to begin, and Earth's greatest protector was finally ready to play. But first, he had a wedding to attend. The Saiyan attack pod streaked through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star, its occupants' pride burning even hotter than the friction flames surrounding his vessel. Prince Vegeta had spent the year-long journey from the remnants of planet Frieza 79 consumed by a single, driving obsession: destroying the low-class warrior who had somehow managed to kill Raditz. His scouter crackled with static as he monitored the energy signatures below. According to his calculations, the strongest power level on this pathetic mudball barely reached 1,000, laughably weak by Saiyan standards. The mysterious Kakarot couldn't possibly be much stronger. How wrong he was about to be proven. The pod crashed into a rocky outcropping with devastating force, creating a crater that would be visible from orbit. As the smoke cleared, Vegeta emerged in his full battle armor, his widow's peak casting shadows over cold, calculating eyes. At 18,000, his power level dwarfed anything this primitive world had ever seen, or so he believed. Finally, he muttered, adjusting his scouter to scan for the highest power levels. Time to show these insects what real Saiyan power looks like. Miles away, on the Kame House beach, Goku felt the arrival like a physical blow to his consciousness. The power signature was unmistakably Saiyan, the same alien energy that had been awakening within himself since the tournament. But more than that, there was something familiar about it, as if echoes of genetic memory were stirring in response to the presence of his own kind. "Goku?" Krillin asked, noticing his friend's sudden tension. "What's wrong?" "Someone's coming," Goku said quietly, his newly awakened senses painting a clear picture of the approaching threat. "Someone like me?" Master Roshi looked up from his magazine, his experienced eyes immediately recognizing the gravity in Goku's voice. Since the tournament 3 months ago, they had all learned to take the young Saiyan's instincts very seriously. "How strong?" the old master asked. Goku closed his eyes, extending his consciousness toward the alien presence. What he found made his blood run cold. Strong enough to destroy cities without trying, and he's angry. Really angry? Before anyone could respond, Yamcha's voice crackled over their communicator with barely controlled panic. "Guys, you need to see this. There's some kind of alien ship that just landed and the guy who came out of it. He looks exactly like Goku." Vegeta, meanwhile, was growing increasingly frustrated with his scouter's readings. Every few seconds, it would spike to impossible levels before settling back to more reasonable numbers, as if something was interfering with its ability to get accurate measurements. "Defective piece of junk," he snarled, striking the device. But as he did, he caught sight of movement in the distance, several figures approaching at high speed. The first to arrive was a bald human with 6 dots on his forehead, followed by a scarred warrior and a 3-eyed monk. Vegeta's scouter immediately began cataloging their power levels. 1770, 1480, 1830. Impressive for humans perhaps, but still insects compared to Saiyan elite. Are you the one who destroyed that city? Tyne demanded, settling into a fighting stance. Vegeta's laugh was sharp and cruel. I am Prince Vegeta, heir to the Saiyan throne and elite warrior of the Galactic Empire. That pathetic settlement was merely a demonstration of what happens to worlds that harbor traitors to the Saiyan race. Traitors? Krillin asked, confused. The low-class warrior called Kakarot, Vegeta spat. Born with a power level of only 2, yet somehow managed to kill Raditz, a mid-class Saiyan with a power level exceeding 1,200. Impossible, unless he received outside help. Goku's not a traitor to anyone, Yamcha protested. He's Earth's greatest defender, Goku. Vegeta's eyes narrowed. So the fool has adopted a human name, how disgraceful. His scouter beeped suddenly and he glanced at the reading with satisfaction. Ah, there he is. Power level 8,000, higher than expected for someone of his breeding, but still nowhere near elite class. What Vegeta didn't realize was that his scouter was only reading the energy that leaked through Goku's damaged suppression system, a tiny fraction of his true potential. Goku arrived moments later, touching down with a grace that made the very air shimmer around him. To Vegeta's surprise, the resemblance between them was unmistakable. The same wild black hair, the same basic facial structure, even the same proud bearing despite Goku's humble origins. So, Vegeta said, crossing his arms as he studied his fellow Saiyan, "You're Kakarot, I must admit you look more impressive than your power level suggests." "My name is Goku," came the quiet reply. "And I don't know who Kakarot is." Vegeta's scouter chirped again, and this time the reading made him frown. 8,000, 9,000, 12,000, the numbers kept climbing slowly but steadily. "Interesting," the prince mused. "Your power level seems to be increasing. Are you powering up to fight me?" "Not exactly," Goku said, settling into the fighting stance Grandpa Gohan had taught him so many years ago. "I'm just trying to figure out how much strength I need to use." Something in that statement sent a chill down Vegeta's spine. There was an undertone of confidence that suggested this low-class warrior believed he had a choice in how much power to employ, as if he possessed reserves Vegeta couldn't detect. "You arrogant fool," Vegeta snarled, his own power flaring to its maximum. "I am the Prince of all Saiyans. My power level exceeds 18,000. You're nothing but a..." His words died as Goku's energy signature suddenly spiked beyond anything his scouter could measure. The device sparked, smoked, and finally exploded in a shower of sparks as it tried to process readings that defied its programming. Where Goku stood, the air itself began to distort with heat and pressure. Golden sparks danced around his aura, the same impossible energy Vegeta had heard whispered about in the darkest corners of Frieza's empire. Power that shouldn't exist outside of legend. "That's impossible," Vegeta whispered, his face going pale beneath his tan. "Your power level, it's over 100,000. "Is it?" Goku asked with genuine curiosity, examining his own hands as golden energy flickered between his fingers. "I'm still learning how to measure it myself." The casual admission hit Vegeta like a physical blow. This wasn't bravado or bluffing. Kakarot genuinely didn't know the extent of his own strength, which meant he had been holding back without even realizing it. "But how?" Vegeta demanded, his worldview cracking under the weight of impossibility. "You were born with a power level of 2, I've seen the records." "Low-class warriors don't become." "Maybe the records were wrong," Goku suggested. "Or maybe power levels aren't as important as you think they are." That statement broke something fundamental in Vegeta's psyche. His entire identity was built around the rigid hierarchy of Saiyan society, where power level determined worth and breeding determined destiny. The idea that a low-class warrior could possess strength that dwarfed the royal bloodline was beyond heretical. It was impossible. "No," he said, shaking his head violently. "No, you're using some kind of trick, some Earth technique to artificially boost your power." "I've never been to any world but Earth," Goku replied honestly. "Everything I know, I learned here." Vegeta's response was a wordless roar of rage and denial. He launched himself forward with every ounce of his considerable speed, intent on proving through violence what his scouter could no longer measure. The collision when they met was visible from space. Krillin, Yamcha, and Tyne were blown backward by the shockwave, their enhanced human abilities barely sufficient to keep them conscious in the face of such overwhelming forces. The rocky ground beneath the fighters' feet simply ceased to exist, vaporized by energies that belonged on cosmic battlefields rather than planetary surfaces. But what truly shattered Vegeta's composure wasn't the raw power, it was the effortless nature of Goku's defense. Every technique the prince had spent years perfecting, Every combination that had crushed countless opponents across the galaxy was casually deflected or absorbed as if it were nothing more than a sparring exercise. "Fight me seriously," Vegeta screamed, pouring everything he had into a devastating energy barrage. Goku caught the attacks with his bare hands, compressing the destructive energy into harmless spheres of light that he released gently into the sky. "I am fighting seriously," he said, and there wasn't a trace of boasting in his voice. "I just don't want to hurt you." The simple statement broke Vegeta completely. Here was a warrior who possessed power that made mockery of everything Vegeta had been taught about Saiyan superiority, yet he showed restraint and compassion, traits that the prince had been conditioned to see as weakness. It was a fundamental contradiction that his mind couldn't process. "I am the legendary Super Saiyan," Vegeta roared, desperation creeping into his voice. "The golden warrior of prophecy. It's my birthright?" Goku paused, something in those words resonating with memories that weren't quite his own. Images flashed through his mind, visions of golden-haired warriors standing against cosmic darkness, legends whispered around campfires on a world that no longer existed. "Maybe you are," he said quietly, "or maybe we both are." As if triggered by the words, Goku's suppressed power finally found another crack in its crystalline prison. Golden energy erupted around him, not the controlled aura he had displayed at the tournament, but something wilder, more primal. His hair flickered between black and gold, his eyes shifted from dark to turquoise, and the very fabric of reality seemed to bend around his ascending power. Vegeta fell to his knees, overwhelmed not by fear but by recognition. This wasn't just raw strength, this was the legendary transformation he had convinced himself was his exclusive birthright. And it was being displayed by a third-class warrior who didn't even understand what he was becoming. "How?" Vegeta whispered, tears of frustration and confusion streaming down his face. "How are you doing this?" The golden aura around Goku stabilized, and when he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that seemed to echo across dimensions. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I think maybe being the legendary Super Saiyan isn't about being born special. Maybe it's about choosing to become something more than what you started as." Before Vegeta could process this philosophical bombshell, Goku's power suddenly spiked beyond even these impossible levels. His transformation stabilized into something that defied description, not just Super Saiyan, but something that suggested infinite potential waiting to be unlocked. "Your power level," Vegeta gasped, his royal training finally providing context for what he was witnessing. "It's not just over 100,000, it's approaching 1 million. Is that a lot?" Goku asked with sincere curiosity. The question finally broke Vegeta's spirit entirely. Here was a warrior who possessed power that could challenge Frieza himself, power that Vegeta had spent his entire life believing belonged exclusively to the royal bloodline, and he was asking if a million-unit power level was a lot. "Frieza," Vegeta whispered, the name falling from his lips like a curse. "Your power, it rivals Lord Frieza's, and you don't even know what that means." Something shifted in Goku's expression at the mention of that name. Genetic memories stirred, carrying with them echoes of fear, hatred, and desperate resistance. "Frieza," he repeated, the word tasting like ash and blood. "He's the one who destroyed our planet, isn't he?" Vegeta nodded mutely, too overwhelmed to maintain his princely pride. "Then I guess," Goku said, his golden aura flaring with determination, "we have something in common after all." He powered down gradually, the impossible energies fading until he appeared almost normal again. But Vegeta's enhanced perception could still sense the vast reservoir of power waiting just beneath the surface, an ocean of potential that had barely been tapped. "Why?" Vegeta asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Why are you so much stronger than me? I'm the prince, I'm elite class, you're supposed to be nothing." Goku considered the question seriously. "Maybe strength isn't about what class you're born into," he said finally. "Maybe it's about what you choose to protect." The simple wisdom in those words cut through Vegeta's conditioning like a sword through paper. For the first time in his life, the Prince of all Saiyans was forced to confront the possibility that everything he had believed about power, breeding, and worth might be fundamentally wrong. "I came here to kill you," Vegeta said numbly. "I know," Goku replied, "but maybe instead you could help me understand what we really are. I'm still learning about being a Saiyan, and you know things about our people that I never will." It was an offer of partnership from someone who could have simply destroyed him. Another contradiction that Vegeta's worldview couldn't accommodate. As the golden aura finally faded completely, leaving Goku looking like an ordinary martial artist once again, Vegeta realized that his entire mission had become meaningless. He had come to Earth to prove Saiyan superiority and eliminate a low-class threat to their race's reputation. Instead, he had discovered that the strongest Saiyan in the universe was everything the royal bloodline was supposed to be, and more. Lord Frieza, Vegeta said suddenly, a new kind of fear creeping into his voice. If he learns about your power, then I guess we'll deal with that when it happens, Goku said with the casual confidence of someone who had just demonstrated power that could reshape solar systems. As Krillin, Yamcha, and Tyne slowly recovered from their ordeal, they found themselves witnessing something unprecedented. Prince Vegeta, heir to the Saiyan throne and elite warrior of the Galactic Empire, kneeling in the dirt before their friend Goku, not in defeat but in a kind of reverent recognition. The prince's shock had given way to something deeper, the realization that everything he thought he knew about strength, destiny, and the nature of power itself had been built on lies. And somewhere in the depths of space, Frieza's scouts were already reporting the energy spike from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star, setting in motion events that would soon bring the most feared being in the universe to Earth's doorstep. The legend of Goku was no longer a secret. The crystalline spires of Frieza's flagship gleamed like deadly icicles against the star-filled void as the Emperor of the Universe reclined in his floating chair, savoring a vintage wine that had cost more than most planets' annual GDP. 3 months had passed since the energy readings from Earth, and his scientific division had finally completed their analysis. Zarbin, Frieza called sweetly, his voice carrying that deceptively pleasant tone that had preceded the destruction of countless civilizations. The elegant warrior appeared instantly, bowing low. Yes, Lord Frieza, tell me again about these interesting readings from the third planet of the Sol system. Zarbin consulted his datapad nervously. My lord, our long-range sensors detected a power spike exceeding 1 million units. The signature was unmistakably Saiyan, but the readings were unprecedented. Frieza's tail twitched with barely contained excitement. Since the destruction of planet Vegeta, he had eliminated every Saiyan he could find, driven by the ancient prophecy of a legendary Super Saiyan who would one day challenge his supremacy. But this was something he hadn't anticipated. 1 million units, he mused, swirling his wine thoughtfully. That would put this mystery Saiyan at roughly 10% of my own maximum power. Fascinating, his eyes gleamed with predatory interest. And you're certain it wasn't Prince Vegeta? Impossible, my lord. Prince Vegeta's maximum recorded power level is barely 18,000. This reading suggests someone with potential approaching your own. The wine glass shattered in Frieza's grip, purple liquid dripping between his white fingers like blood. Approaching my own potential. Zarbin, are you suggesting that a monkey could possibly rival the mighty Frieza? Of course not, my lord, Zarbin said quickly. But the readings are concerning. If there is indeed a Saiyan with such power, then I will examine this anomaly personally, Frieza interrupted, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than his loudest roar. Set course for Earth immediately. Meanwhile, on Earth, Goku was experiencing his own set of concerns. The partial awakening of his power had brought with it fragments of genetic memory, visions of a crimson sky, burning cities, and the terrible moment when planet Vegeta died in flames. But more disturbing were the dreams that came with increasing frequency. Glimpses of a small, white figure with ruby eyes, radiating power that made even Goku's newfound strength seem insignificant. Having trouble sleeping again? Kai asked as she found her husband sitting on their porch at dawn, staring up at the fading stars. Just dreams, Goku said softly, though they both knew it was more than that. Since his transformation during the fight with Vegeta, his senses had expanded beyond the merely planetary. He could feel energies moving through space, vast powers that dwarfed anything Earth had ever known. The same dreams, Goku nodded. There's something coming, Kai, something terrible, and I think it's coming because of me. Before she could respond, their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Piccolo, who landed in their yard with his characteristic dramatic flair. The former demon had become a frequent visitor since their tournament battle, drawn by a combination of curiosity and an inexplicable sense that Goku represented something crucial to Earth's future. We need to talk, Piccolo said without preamble, all of us. An hour later, the assembled Z-Fighters gathered at Kame House, their faces grave as Piccolo shared what his enhanced hearing had detected during his meditation. Radio signals, he explained. Alien transmissions heavily encrypted, but I managed to decode fragments. Someone out there is very interested in the power readings from our little tournament 3 months ago. What kind of someone? Krillin asked, though his pale face suggested he already suspected the answer. The kind with planet-destroying capabilities, Vegeta said quietly. Since his defeat, the Saiyan Prince had taken up residence on Earth, ostensibly as a prisoner, but in reality struggling to understand his place in a universe where his fundamental assumptions about power had been shattered. All eyes turned to him. "You know who it is, don't you?" Goku asked. Vegeta's jaw clenched. "Frieza, it has to be. He's the only being in the universe paranoid enough to investigate random energy spikes and powerful enough to act on his suspicions." "How powerful?" Master Roshi asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "In his base form, roughly 500,000 units, Vegeta said, his voice hollow with remembered terror. "But he has transformations, 3 of them as far as anyone knows. His final form," he shuddered. 120 million units of pure destruction. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Goku, with his partially awakened power, felt a chill at those numbers. "But that's impossible," Yamcha protested weakly. "Nothing could be that strong." "Frieza isn't just strong," Vegeta continued, his voice gaining a bitter edge. "He's smart, ruthless, and has never met an opponent he couldn't destroy. He once obliterated an entire planet because someone served him the wrong vintage of wine." Goku stood suddenly, his Kai signature beginning to fluctuate as stress triggered another partial breakthrough in his suppression system. "Then I'll have to get stronger," he said simply. "Goku," Krillin said carefully, "even with what we saw during your fight with Vegeta, 120 million is not enough," Goku interrupted, golden sparks beginning to dance around his aura. "I can feel it deep inside. There's more power there waiting. I just need to figure out how to reach it." What none of them realized was that Frieza's ship was already within scanning range of Earth's solar system, and the tyrant himself was analyzing the energy readings with growing fascination. "Curious," he murmured, studying the data on his personal view screen. "The power signature is definitely Saiyan, but there's something else. Something familiar." His scientific officer, a nervous creature with multiple eyes and tentacles, consulted his instruments. "Lord Frieza, we're detecting trace resonances that match your own energy frequency. It's as if this Saiyan possesses power similar in nature to yours." Frieza's eyes widened with genuine surprise. In all his centuries of conquest, he had never encountered another being with power that resembled his own unique energy signature. Even other members of his species, the few that remained, possessed fundamentally different types of strength. "Similar to mine," he repeated softly. "How delightfully unexpected." As Frieza's ship entered Earth's outer solar system, Goku suddenly doubled over in pain, his partially awakened instincts screaming warnings of approaching danger. The golden aura around him flared involuntarily, and for a moment, everyone present could feel the vast ocean of power lurking just beneath the surface of his consciousness. "He's here," Goku gasped, his voice carrying harmonics that made the windows of Kame House vibrate. "He's actually here." "Who's here?" Kai demanded, but her question was answered by Vegeta's strangled whisper. "Frieza!" The word fell like a death sentence. Even Piccolo, whose power had grown considerably since his transformation, felt a primal terror at the implications. This wasn't just another strong opponent, this was a force of nature, a cosmic disaster given form and malevolent intelligence. "How long do we have?" Tyne asked, his 3 eyes scanning the sky as if he could spot the approaching threat. Goku closed his eyes, extending his consciousness beyond Earth's atmosphere. What he found there made his blood freeze. The approaching power signature was unlike anything he had ever encountered, cold, calculating, and vast beyond comprehension. But underneath the obvious threat, there was something else. Something that resonated with his own partially awakened abilities in a way that was both fascinating and terrifying. 3 days, he said finally. "Maybe less. Then we need a plan," Piccolo said, his tactical mind already racing through possibilities, but Vegeta was shaking his head. "You don't understand. There is no plan against Frieza. There's just survival, and most people don't even get that." "Then we make our own plan," Goku said, his voice gaining strength as his resolve hardened. "Vegeta, I need you to tell me everything you know about his fighting style, his transformations, anything that might give us an edge." "Kakarot," Vegeta said quietly, using Goku's Saiyan name for the first time without mockery. "Even if you could somehow access your full power, I'm not sure it would be enough. Frieza has been the strongest being in the universe for longer than most civilizations have existed." Goku's response was to power up slightly, letting his golden aura stabilize around him. "Then I guess it's time to find out if there's something stronger than the strongest." As he spoke, energy readings across the planet spiked. Every scouter in Frieza's ship registered the impossible signature, and for the first time in decades, the Emperor of the Universe felt something he had nearly forgotten. Genuine curiosity mixed with the faintest hint of concern. "Magnificent," Frieza breathed, watching the energy readings climb. This Saiyan isn't just powerful, he's actively growing stronger. How absolutely delicious. His ship's AI chimed with a tactical assessment. Lord Frieza, current readings suggest the target's power level is approaching 500,000 units. Recommend proceeding with caution. Frieza laughed, a sound like crystal chimes mixed with breaking bones. Caution, my dear computer, when has the mighty Frieza ever needed caution? He paused, studying the readings more carefully. Though I must admit, a Saiyan with 500,000 units of power is worth examining personally. On Earth, Goku was pushing his partially awakened abilities to their limit, trying to gauge how much strength he could access in his current state. The answer was both encouraging and terrifying. He could feel vast reserves of power waiting to be unlocked, but accessing them required a level of emotional trigger he wasn't sure he wanted to experience. There's something else, he said suddenly, his enhanced senses picking up details that his conscious mind was only beginning to process. His power, it feels familiar, like we've met before. Vegeta's eyes widened. Impossible. If you had encountered Frieza before, you would be dead or worse. Not met him, Goku corrected, struggling to put the sensation into words. But our power, it's similar somehow. Like we're both drawing from the same source. The implications of that statement sent chills through everyone present. If Goku was right, it meant that his incredible potential might share a common origin with Frieza's terrifying strength. The question was whether that similarity would prove to be an advantage or a liability when they finally faced each other. As if summoned by their discussion, Frieza's ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. The craft itself was a work of art, crystalline spires and flowing curves that spoke of a civilization that had mastered both technology and aesthetics. But its beauty was deceptive, concealing weapons systems capable of reducing planets to cosmic dust. Scan the planet, Frieza commanded. I want precise locations for every significant power signature, and pay special attention to our mysterious Saiyan friend. The scan took only minutes, but the results were puzzling. The strongest reading came from a remote area of Earth's largest continent, but there were several other significant signatures scattered across the globe. More interesting was the fact that the primary target seemed to be actively suppressing his power, as if aware of their surveillance. Intelligent, Frieza mused. He knows we're here and he's trying to hide his true strength. How wonderfully sporting of him. On Earth, Goku suddenly straightened, his expression growing grim. He's scanning us right now. I can feel it. Then he knows where we are, Piccolo said. Good, Goku replied, his golden aura flaring with determination. I'm tired of hiding what I am. Before anyone could stop him, he unleashed a controlled burst of his true power, not enough to trigger a full transformation, but sufficient to send a clear message to anyone monitoring Earth's energy output. The golden light was visible for hundreds of miles, and the power reading it generated made every instrument on Frieza's ship register levels that bordered on the impossible. Oh my, Frieza said softly, his ruby eyes wide with delight. 1 million units, definitely 1 million units, possibly more. He leaned forward in his chair, his tail lashing with anticipation. Zarbin, prepare my shuttle. I believe it's time for a personal introduction. Lord Frieza, Zarbin said carefully, perhaps it would be wiser to what? Hide from a monkey, Frieza's voice dropped to a whisper. I am Frieza. I do not hide from anyone or anything. Besides, he added, his expression taking on an almost childlike excitement, I'm curious to meet another being with power similar to my own. It's been so very long since I've had an interesting conversation. As Frieza's shuttle launched toward Earth's surface, Goku felt the approaching presence like a weight settling over the entire planet. But mixed with the natural fear was something unexpected, a thrill of anticipation. For the first time since his power had begun awakening, he would face an opponent who might actually be able to push him to his limits. Everyone needs to get to safety, he said, his voice carrying an authority that brooked no argument. This fight is going to be beyond anything Earth has ever seen. We're not leaving you to face him alone, Krillin protested. Goku turned to his oldest friend, and Krillin was startled to see something ancient and terrible lurking in those familiar dark eyes. You have to. If I lose control of my power during this fight, I need to know that the people I care about are safe. The admission hung in the air like a death sentence. Even Goku wasn't certain he could control the forces he was about to unleash. As Frieza's shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere, trailing fire like a falling star, both fighters prepared for a confrontation that would reshape their understanding of power, potential, and the very nature of strength itself. The Emperor of the Universe was about to meet his most dangerous opponent, and Goku was finally going to discover just how deep the well of his potential truly ran. The crystalline shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling jewel, its elegant curves concealing technology that could annihilate continents. Inside, Frieza sat with predatory calm, his ruby eyes fixed on the approaching planet's surface. For the first time in decades, he felt something approaching genuine excitement, not the sadistic pleasure he derived from conquest, but the anticipation of meeting a true equal. "Fascinating," he murmured, studying the energy readings on his personal display. "The power signature keeps fluctuating. Either our mysterious Saiyan is deliberately masking his strength, or he hasn't learned to control it properly." His lips curved into a cold smile. How delightfully familiar. Below, on a barren plateau that Goku had chosen specifically to minimize collateral damage, Earth's greatest protector waited in perfect stillness. His orange gi fluttered in the wind, but his expression was serene despite the cosmic threat descending toward him. The partial awakening of his Saiyan heritage had brought with it not just power, but an instinctive understanding of combat that transcended mere technique. "He's almost here," Goku said softly, though his friends had long since retreated to a safe distance. Only Vegeta remained nearby, crouched on a distant mountaintop, his royal pride warring with pragmatic terror as he prepared to witness what might be the last battle either Saiyan would ever fight. The shuttle touched down with barely a whisper, its landing systems so advanced they disturbed not a single grain of sand. The boarding ramp descended with theatrical precision, revealing a small, white figure that radiated menace like heat from a furnace. Frieza stepped onto Earth's soil with the casual arrogance of someone who had never encountered an environment he couldn't reshape to his whims. His ruby eyes immediately found Goku, and for a moment, both warriors simply studied each other in silence. "So," Frieza said finally, his voice carrying that deceptively pleasant tone that had preceded countless genocides, "you're the little monkey who's been causing such a stir." Goku's response was to settle into a fighting stance that somehow managed to be both respectful and defiant. "I'm Goku and you're Frieza." "Indeed I am." Frieza's tail swished with amusement as he began to circle his opponent, his movements predatory and hypnotic. "Tell me, monkey, do you have any idea who I am?" "What I represent? You're the one who destroyed planet Vegeta," Goku said quietly. "You murdered my people." "Your people?" Frieza laughed, a sound like crystal wind chimes mixed with breaking bones. "Oh my dear Saiyan, you misunderstand completely. I didn't murder your people, I liberated the universe from them. The Saiyans were nothing but violent barbarians who contributed nothing to galactic civilization except chaos and destruction." Something flickered in Goku's eyes, not anger exactly, but a recognition of fundamental opposition that ran deeper than mere conflict. "And what have you contributed to the universe, Frieza?" The question seemed to genuinely puzzle the galactic tyrant. "Why, order, of course, structure, the peace that comes from acknowledging one's proper place in the cosmic hierarchy." His expression hardened. "Though it seems some monkeys require more convincing than others." Without warning, Frieza moved, not an attack, but a demonstration of speed that covered 100 meters in the blink of an eye. When he stopped, he was directly in front of Goku, one delicate finger extended toward the Saiyan's heart. "Power level 400,000 in my current form," he said conversationally. "More than enough to reduce this pathetic planet to cosmic dust, yet here you stand, showing no fear whatsoever. How refreshingly stupid." Goku's response was to smile, not the battle-hungry grin his friends were accustomed to, but something deeper and more unsettling. "Maybe I'm not afraid because I know something you don't." "Oh, and what might that be?" "That power levels don't tell the whole story." Before Frieza could respond, Goku's energy signature suddenly spiked beyond anything the tyrant had expected. Golden light erupted around the Saiyan's form, not the unstable flicker he had displayed during his partial awakenings, but a steady, controlled aura that spoke of vast depths finally being accessed. "Impossible," Frieza breathed, his scouter readings climbing past 500,000, 600,000, 800,000. "Your power, it's approaching my own." "Is it?" Goku asked with genuine curiosity, examining the golden energy dancing around his hands. "I'm still learning how to measure it." The casual admission sent a chill down Frieza's spine. This Saiyan wasn't boasting or trying to intimidate, he genuinely didn't understand the full extent of his own abilities, which suggested that what Frieza was witnessing might only be the beginning. "Fascinating," Frieza murmured, his initial amusement giving way to something approaching professional interest. "You know, in all my centuries of conquest, I've never encountered another being with power quite like mine. Oh, there have been strong opponents, the Jinyu Force, my father King Cold, even some of the more ancient races, but none with this particular resonance." He was right. As their energies interacted, both fighters could sense the fundamental similarity in their power signatures. It was as if they were drawing from the same cosmic source, accessing the same infinite wellspring through completely different methods. "We're alike, aren't we?" Goku said, and there was no joy in the observation. "Whatever gave you your strength, I have something similar." "Indeed," Frieza agreed, beginning his own power-up sequence. "The difference, my dear monkey, is that I've spent lifetimes learning to control and refine my abilities. While you..." His aura flared to its maximum, reaching the full 530,000 units of his first form. "You're still playing with forces you don't understand." The battle began with a collision that registered on seismic equipment halfway around the planet. Both fighters moved at speeds that reduced their forms to golden and white streaks, their impacts sending shockwaves through the atmosphere. But as the fight progressed, something unexpected became clear. They were evenly matched. Not in the crude sense of identical power levels, but in the deeper harmony of perfectly balanced opposition. Every technique Frieza had perfected over centuries of conquest was met, and countered by abilities that Goku seemed to access through pure instinct. When Frieza's death beam pierced the air with surgical precision, Goku's Kamehameha met it with raw power that defied calculation. When the tyrant's speed created afterimages that confused mortal perception, the Saiyan's enhanced reflexes tracked every movement with impossible accuracy. "Magnificent," Frieza panted, hovering above a crater that hadn't existed moments before. "You fight like someone with formal training, yet I sense no discipline in your technique. How are you doing this?" Goku floated opposite him, his golden aura pulsing steadily. "I don't know, it just feels natural. Like I've been preparing for this fight my whole life without knowing it." The admission triggered something deep in Frieza's psyche, not fear exactly, but a recognition that he was facing something fundamentally unprecedented. This wasn't just another strong opponent to be crushed, this was a mirror of his own cosmic significance. "Tell me, monkey," he said, his voice taking on a more serious tone, "do you dream? Do you ever see visions of golden light and infinite power?" Goku's eyes widened. "How did you—" "Because I have the same dreams," Frieza interrupted. "Visions of transformation, of ascending beyond mere physical limitation. I always assumed they were manifestations of my own superiority, but now..." He studied his opponent with new intensity. "Now I wonder if we're both echoes of something larger." The philosophical implications hung between them for a moment before Frieza's expression hardened. "But regardless of cosmic destiny or shared origins, there can be only one emperor of the universe. And that position is mine." His transformation began without warning, bones extending, muscles expanding, horns erupting from his skull as he shifted into his second form. His power doubled instantly, reaching over 1,000,000 units, but something in Goku's expression suggested the Saiyan had been expecting this development. "So you have transformations too," Goku observed, his own aura beginning to fluctuate in response to the threat. "I wondered about that." "Second form," Frieza confirmed, his voice now carrying a deeper resonance. "Power level 1,060,000, more than enough to..." He stopped mid-sentence as Goku's energy signature suddenly exploded upward. The Saiyan's form remained the same, but his golden aura took on new depth and complexity, as if accessing reservoirs of power that had never been touched before. "Adaptive evolution," Goku said, though he seemed as surprised by the words as Frieza was. "I don't know where that came from, but it feels right. My power grows to match whatever I'm fighting." Frieza's enhanced senses confirmed the impossible truth. Goku's power level was climbing to match his own transformed state, but the Saiyan showed no signs of strain or effort. It was as if his body was naturally adjusting to whatever level of strength the situation required. "Impossible," Frieza breathed. "Power doesn't work that way. There are limits, biological constraints." "Maybe for most people," Goku interrupted gently. "But we're not most people, are we?" The question hit Frieza like a physical blow because it forced him to confront a truth he had spent centuries avoiding. His incredible power, his natural transformations, his intuitive mastery of techniques that took others lifetimes to learn, none of it was actually normal, even by the standards of his own species. "What are we?" he whispered, and for the first time in his existence, the Emperor of the Universe sounded genuinely uncertain. "I don't know," Goku admitted, "but maybe that's what we're here to figure out." The battle resumed with even greater intensity, both fighters now operating at levels that strained the very fabric of local spacetime. Frieza's third transformation, a grotesque, elongated form with a power level exceeding 2,000,000, was met by another evolution in Goku's adaptive abilities. The Saiyan's golden aura deepened, taking on shades that didn't quite exist in normal visible spectrum. But it was during Frieza's final transformation that the true nature of their conflict became clear. As the tyrant's power condensed into his final, compact form, 120 million units of perfectly controlled destruction, something unprecedented happened. Goku's adaptive evolution didn't just match the new power level, it began to resonate with it on a fundamental level. "No," Frieza gasped as he felt his own energy patterns shifting in response to Goku's presence. "This isn't possible, you're not just adapting to my power, you're harmonizing with it." Goku's expression was one of wonder mixed with growing understanding. "We're two halves of the same whole, aren't we? That's why our power feels so familiar. That's why we can do things that shouldn't be possible." The realization sent shockwaves through both fighters. They weren't just opponents, they were complementary forces, darkness and light drawing from the same cosmic source. Frieza's cold perfection and Goku's warm compassion were opposite expressions of identical potential. "If that's true," Frieza said slowly, "then together we could rule the universe," Goku finished. "I know, I can feel it too. The temptation, the power to reshape reality itself." His expression grew sad. "But that's not what I choose." "Choose?" Frieza's laugh was bitter and confused. "You're offered godhood and you speak of choice? Because that's what makes us different," Goku replied, his golden aura stabilizing at levels that matched Frieza's maximum power. "We both have the same potential, but we use it for different purposes. You use yours to control and dominate. I want to use mine to protect and grow." The philosophical divide crystallized into physical opposition as their final clash began. Two beings with near-identical power, perfect mirrors of cosmic potential, fighting not just for victory, but for the right to define what unlimited strength truly meant. The battle raged for hours, reshaping continents and boiling oceans with the overflow of their incredible energies. Neither could gain a decisive advantage because they were too perfectly matched. Every technique met its counter, every strategy neutralized by its opposite. It was Goku who finally broke the stalemate, not through superior power, but through a choice that defied everything Frieza understood about combat. "I could destroy you," Goku said as they hovered above a planet that bore the scars of their conflict. "My power has grown to match yours exactly. We could fight forever, or what?" Frieza snarled, his perfect form radiating frustrated energy. "Or I could choose to help you instead." The offer hit Frieza like a meteor to the chest. In all his centuries of existence, no one had ever offered to help him with anything. They either served him out of fear or opposed him out of desperation. The concept of genuine assistance from an equal was so foreign he could barely process it. "Help me do what?" he asked, his voice hoarse with exhaustion and confusion. "Figure out what we really are," Goku said simply, "and maybe find a better use for all this power than just fighting each other." For the first time in his existence, Frieza felt something that might have been genuine emotion, not the cold satisfaction of conquest or the hot pleasure of destruction, but something warmer and more complex. It was terrifying. "You're insane," he whispered. "I've destroyed countless worlds, murdered billions, I am everything you should oppose." "You are," Goku agreed. "But you're also the only other being in the universe who might understand what it's like to carry this much potential. And maybe that means you can change." The suggestion hung between them like a bridge over an infinite chasm. Frieza could feel the truth of it resonating through his enhanced perception. This Saiyan wasn't offering naive forgiveness, but something far more profound. The possibility of becoming something greater than what he had always been. "Change," Frieza repeated, as if tasting an alien word. "After centuries of being what I am. You think I could simply change?" "I think we both could," Goku said. "Together." The Emperor of the Universe stared at his perfect opposite for a long moment, feeling cosmic forces shifting around them in response to this unprecedented possibility. For the first time in his existence, Frieza faced a choice that wasn't about power or conquest, but about the fundamental nature of who he was and who he could become. "Very well," he said finally, his voice carrying a note of wonder that hadn't been there in centuries. "But if we do this, Saiyan, you become responsible for what I might become. Are you prepared for that burden?" Goku's smile was radiant with hope and determination. "I think that's what friends are for." As the two most powerful beings in the universe descended toward the scarred but still living planet below, cosmic forces that had been set in motion eons ago finally found their resolution. The Mirror of Malice had been offered the chance to reflect something other than destruction, and against all probability, it had chosen to try. The universe would never be the same. 3 years had passed since the day Frieza chose redemption over conquest, and the universe had settled into an uneasy peace. On Earth, the former galactic tyrant had taken up residence in a specially constructed facility in West City, working alongside Dr. Brief to understand the cosmic forces that had shaped both his and Goku's incredible potential. The arrangement was surreal, history's greatest destroyer learning to channel his abilities toward creation and discovery. But old wounds heal slowly, and not everyone had forgotten Frieza's legacy of terror. Dr. Jiro crouched in the shadows of his remote laboratory, his aged fingers flying over keyboards as he made final adjustments to his life's work. The androids that surrounded him in their cylindrical chambers represented decades of research, fueled by a hatred that had only grown stronger with time. Soon, he muttered, his mechanical eye whirring as it focused on Android 19's peaceful face. Soon you'll have your revenge against Goku and that monster he's allied himself with. The irony wasn't lost on him. His androids had been designed specifically to counter the Goku who had defeated the Red Ribbon Army, a martial artist with impressive but ultimately finite power. The energy absorption models, 19 and 20, were calibrated to handle opponents in the tens of thousands range. Even the infinite energy models, 17 and 18, had been programmed based on power-level projections that now seemed laughably inadequate. But Dr. Jiro's pride wouldn't allow him to acknowledge that his calculations might be flawed. In his mind, no amount of training could have prepared Goku for androids designed specifically to counter his known abilities. He couldn't have been more wrong. At the Capsule Corporation training facility, Goku sparred with Frieza in a chamber reinforced with materials that existed only in theoretical physics textbooks. Both warriors had learned to suppress their energies to levels that wouldn't accidentally crack the planet's crust. But even there, restrained, power dwarfed what Earth had considered maximum strength just 3 years ago. Your technique is improving, Frieza observed as they paused between rounds, his reformed personality still carrying traces of his imperial precision. Though you still rely too heavily on instinct over calculation. And you still think too much instead of feeling, Goku replied with a grin. But we're getting better at finding the balance. Their friendship, if it could be called that, had developed into something unprecedented in galactic history. Two beings of near-infinite potential learning to complement rather than oppose each other, their combined understanding pushing the boundaries of what power truly meant. Goku, Vegeta's voice crackled through the training chamber's intercom, carrying an urgency that made both warriors immediately power down. We have a problem. They emerged from the chamber to find the Saiyan Prince standing with Trunks, a purple-haired young man whose presence still sent ripples of temporal confusion through anyone who thought too hard about his origins. The time traveler's warnings about the androids had prompted 3 years of intensive preparation. But now that the moment had arrived, even their enhanced abilities felt inadequate against the unknown. "They're here," Trunks said simply, his sword gleaming across his back. "And according to my timeline, they should be appearing right about now." The explosion that rocked South City could be felt from hundreds of miles away. Not the focused devastation of energy attacks, but the wholesale destruction that came from beings who viewed property damage as an amusing side effect of their presence. "Power levels?" Goku asked, though his enhanced senses were already providing the answer. "Android 19 is reading at about 300,000, Vegeta reported, consulting a scouter that had been upgraded with Frieza's technological improvements. Android 20 is similar, dangerous to most fighters, but, he paused, looking between Goku and Frieza, nowhere near your current capabilities. Frieza's expression grew thoughtful, curious. If these androids were designed to defeat you, why are they so relatively weak? Either their creator is incompetent, or they're not the real threat, Goku finished. Trunks, in your timeline were there other androids? Stronger ones? The time traveler's face paled. Androids 17 and 18, infinite energy models with power levels exceeding 150 million each. They're the ones who, he couldn't finish the sentence, the memories of his devastated timeline too painful to voice. 150 million, Frieza repeated, his reformed personality unable to completely suppress a flash of competitive interest. Impressive, though hardly insurmountable given our current capabilities. Don't underestimate them, Trunks warned. In my timeline, they treated destruction like a game. No matter how strong the opposition became, they always seemed to have more power in reserve. Before anyone could respond, Piccolo materialized in the training room, his expression grim. The androids in South City aren't acting according to the timeline Trunks described. They're not randomly destroying everything, they're specifically hunting for energy signatures, looking for someone. Looking for me, Goku said with certainty. Dr. Jiro designed them to kill me, which means they'll keep causing casualties until they find me. Then we end this quickly, Frieza said, his aura beginning to shimmer with contained power. A few energy absorption models shouldn't present significant. No, Goku interrupted, his voice carrying an authority that made even the former emperor pause. This is my responsibility. Dr. Jiro's hatred is directed at me, and innocent people are paying the price for my past actions. He began powering up, but instead of the golden aura they had grown accustomed to, his energy took on a different quality, more focused, more controlled. The partial awakenings and adaptive evolution of recent years had coalesced into something approaching true mastery. I'll handle 19 and 20, he continued. But if the stronger androids appear, we'll need everyone working together. The flight to South City took minutes at their enhanced speeds, but they arrived to find a scene of surgical devastation. Unlike the random destruction they had expected, the androids had carved precise paths through the urban landscape, not seeking to maximize casualties, but to flush out their target through terror. Android 19 stood in the center of a shattered plaza, his pink, rotund form an almost comical contrast to the devastation around him. His red ribbon hat perched jauntily on his bald head as he systematically destroyed buildings, each explosion calibrated to create maximum noise and panic. "Goku," he called out in his mechanical voice. "We know you're here, surrender yourself and we'll make the DATHS quick." "I'm right here," Goku said, dropping from the sky to land 20 feet from the android. "Let's finish this." Android 19's head swiveled toward him with mechanical precision. Scanning, power level 400,000, within acceptable parameters for termination. The reading made Goku smile. Either the android's sensors were malfunctioning or Dr. Jiro's technology was even more outdated than they had suspected. "You might want to scan again," he suggested. "Unnecessary." Beginning termination sequence. Android 19 launched himself forward with impressive speed, his energy absorption palms extended to drain Goku's Kai on contact. It was a sound strategy against most opponents, close the distance quickly and siphon their power before they could mount an effective defense. Against Goku, it was catastrophically inadequate. The Saiyan didn't dodge the attack, he caught it. Android 19's palms made contact with Goku's chest, and the energy absorption systems activated exactly as designed. For a split second, power flowed from Goku into the android systems. Then Android 19 exploded. Not from external damage, but from massive systemic overload as his energy absorption capabilities tried to process power levels they weren't designed to handle. The android's final transmission was a burst of error codes that roughly translated to impossible data input. The other Z-fighters, watching from a safe distance, could only stare in stunned silence. They had prepared for an epic battle, a test of their improved abilities against Dr. Jiro's mechanical masterpieces. Instead, they had witnessed what amounted to an industrial accident. "Well," Piccolo said dryly, "that was anticlimactic." Android 20 Dr. Jiro himself emerged from behind a collapsed building, his mechanical face displaying something approaching disbelief. "Impossible." Android 19 was calibrated to absorb energy up to 500,000 units. No organic being could produce enough power to. He stopped as his own sensors finally registered Goku's true energy signature. The readings climbed steadily, 500,000, 1 million, 2 million, and showed no signs of stopping. "What are you?" he whispered, his electronic voice cracking with static. "I'm the person you've been trying to kill for 20 years, Goku said sadly. "And I'm sorry it's come to this, Dr. Jiro, I really am." The aged scientist's response was to activate his own energy absorption systems and launch a desperate attack. Unlike Android 19, Dr. Jiro's cybernetic body had been designed with more sophisticated safeguards, allowing him to handle higher power inputs without immediate destruction. But higher was a relative term. Goku allowed the absorption to continue for nearly 30 seconds, his expression growing increasingly concerned as he watched Dr. Jiro's mechanical body begin to smoke and spark under the strain of processing even a fraction of his true power. "Please stop," Goku said gently. "Your systems can't handle this much energy. You're going to hurt yourself." Dr. Jiro's response was to increase the absorption rate, his hatred overriding any sense of self-preservation. Sparks flew from his joints as his power core struggled to contain energies that exceeded its theoretical maximum by several orders of magnitude. "I will not be denied," he gasped, his voice becoming increasingly distorted as his vocal systems began to fail. Goku made a decision that surprised everyone present, including himself. Instead of simply overpowering the android, he began to carefully modulate his energy output, feeding Dr. Jiro exactly as much power as the old scientist's systems could safely handle. There, Goku said softly. Now you can absorb my energy without destroying yourself. We can fight properly. The gesture showing concern for an enemy's well-being even in the middle of combat was so fundamentally alien to Dr. Jiro's worldview that it caused him to hesitate. For just a moment, his mechanical features displayed something approaching confusion. Why? He asked, his voice stabilizing as his systems adjusted to the regulated energy flow. Because you're in pain, Goku said simply. I can feel it, Dr. Jiro. All this hatred, all this need for revenge, it's eating you up from the inside. I don't want to cause you any more suffering than you've already experienced. The admission hit Dr. Jiro harder than any physical attack could have. This was the man he had devoted his life to destroying, offering him compassion in the middle of their final confrontation. You destroyed the Red Ribbon Army, he said, his voice now carrying more confusion than anger. You ruined everything I built. I stopped you from hurting innocent people, Goku corrected gently, but I never wanted to cause you personal pain if there had been another way. There wasn't, Dr. Jiro said, but the certainty had gone out of his voice. You were too strong, too righteous. There was no room in the world for what I was trying to accomplish. Maybe not then, Goku agreed, but people can change, Dr. Jiro. I've seen it happen. From the sidelines, Frieza watched this exchange with fascination. 3 years of friendship with Goku had shown him that the Saiyan's greatest strength wasn't his incredible power, but his ability to see potential for good in even the most unlikely opponents. It was the same quality that had saved Frieza himself from an eternity of destruction. Dr. Jiro's sensors detected another massive energy spike, but this time it wasn't coming from Goku. 2 new signatures had appeared on the horizon, moving at incredible speeds toward their location. Oh no, Trunks breathed, recognizing the distinctive energy patterns. 17 and 18. They're awake. The approaching androids arrived with characteristic arrogance, their youthful faces displaying bored contempt as they surveyed the destruction around them. Android 17, a young man with long black hair, looked around with mild interest. Android 18, a blonde woman whose beauty was matched only by her capacity for violence, seemed more concerned with her manicure than the cosmic-level fighters surrounding her. Well, Android 17 said, his voice carrying that particular brand of casual cruelty that had terrorized Trunks' timeline. Looks like the old man finally found his target. Though I have to say, this doesn't look like much of a challenge. His sensors registered Goku's suppressed power level at roughly 50,000, impressive by normal standards, but nothing that would concern androids designed to operate at 150 million units each. Actually, Goku said, his tone almost apologetic, I think there might be some calculation errors in your programming. Calculation errors? Android 18 looked up from her nails, her expression mildly annoyed. Are you suggesting we're defective? Not defective, Goku said carefully, just not designed for this particular situation. To demonstrate his point, he allowed a tiny fraction of his true power to leak through his suppression. The energy spike that resulted was enough to overload every scanner in a 50-mile radius and create a brief electromagnetic pulse that temporarily blinded all electronic systems in the area. When the interference cleared, both androids were staring at Goku with expressions of genuine shock. Power level, Android 17's voice cracked slightly as his internal systems struggled to process the readings. Error. Reading exceeds computational parameters. How much does it exceed them? Android 18 asked, her casual demeanor replaced by something approaching concern. By approximately, carry the one. Roughly 50 million%. The silence that followed was profound. Dr. Jiro's androids had been designed to handle power levels in the hundreds of millions. They had never anticipated facing an opponent whose suppressed energy alone exceeded their maximum operational capacity. This is a problem, Android 18 said with characteristic understatement. Indeed it is, Frieza said, choosing that moment to make his presence known. The former emperor dropped from the sky with theatrical grace, his reformed personality still unable to resist a dramatic entrance. Though perhaps not the problem you're expecting. Both androids immediately focused their sensors on the newcomer, and the readings they received defied their understanding of how power levels were supposed to work. Like Goku, Frieza was suppressing his true abilities, but even his restrained energy signature registered at levels that should have been physically impossible. 2 of them, Android 17 said faintly. There are 2 beings with power levels exceeding our design parameters. Actually, Piccolo said, deciding to join the conversation, there are several more of us. The past 3 years have been quite productive in terms of training. As if to prove his point, Vegeta, Tyne, and the other Z-fighters descended from their observation points, each radiating power that would have been considered phenomenal just a few years earlier. While none of them approached Goku and Frieza's cosmic-level abilities, they all exceeded the android's original programming expectations. "This is impossible," Dr. Gero said, his mechanical voice filled with despair. "My calculations were perfect. I accounted for every variable, every possible improvement in your abilities." "You accounted for normal training," Goku said gently, "but the past few years haven't exactly been normal. We've had some unique opportunities for growth." Android 17 looked around at the assembled fighters, his superior attitude rapidly giving way to something approaching panic. "Our programming is based on power-level calculations from 3 years ago. If their abilities have improved this dramatically, then we're not just outmatched," Android 18 finished. "We're completely obsolete." The admission hung in the air like a death sentence. These androids had terrorized Trunks' timeline, treating Earth's defenders like insects to be casually swatted. But in this reality, where Goku had unlocked his potential and formed alliances that transcended normal understanding, they were nothing more than relics of a bygone era. "So what happens now?" Android 17 asked, his voice carrying a vulnerability that surprised everyone present. Goku considered the question seriously. "Well, you could try to fight us. But honestly, I don't think that would end well for anyone. Or," he paused, glancing at Frieza with a meaningful look, "or you could try something different." "Different how? Help us," Goku said simply. "Your power levels might not match ours, but you're still incredibly strong by any reasonable standard. And more importantly, you have unlimited energy. That could be useful for protecting people instead of hurting them." The suggestion was so unexpected that both androids simply stared at him for several seconds. "You want us to become heroes?" Android 18 asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "I want you to become whatever you choose to be," Goku corrected. "But yeah, heroes would be nice." Dr. Gero's mechanical laughter interrupted the moment, but it was bitter and broken rather than malevolent. "Heroes," he repeated, "my greatest creations offered the chance to become everything I tried to destroy. The irony is perfect." "It doesn't have to be ironic," Goku said, turning back to the aged scientist. "You could make that choice too, Dr. Gero. Use your incredible intellect to help people instead of hurting them." For the first time in decades, Dr. Gero found himself facing a decision that wasn't driven by hatred or revenge. These beings could destroy him without effort, yet they were offering him the chance to start over, to become something other than what his pain had made him. I don't know how," he admitted, his voice small and lost. "None of us did at first," Frieza said quietly, speaking from hard-won experience. "But apparently learning is what friends are for." As the sun set over the damaged city, an unlikely group of former enemies stood together on the scarred plaza, each facing the possibility of becoming something greater than what their programming, biological or mechanical, had originally intended. The android paradox had been resolved not through superior force, but through the simple recognition that everyone, regardless of their origin or past actions, possessed the potential to choose their own path forward. Earth's defenders had grown stronger not just in power, but in wisdom, and the universe was beginning to take notice. Deep beneath the Earth, in a laboratory that had been abandoned for years, something stirred within a massive biomechanical cocoon. The temporal disruptions caused by Trunks' intervention had accelerated many processes throughout the timeline, and Cell's gestation was no exception. What should have taken years to complete had been condensed into months, driven by the android's innate ability to adapt to changing circumstances. But as Cell's consciousness began to emerge from its developmental slumber, it found itself processing information that defied its original programming. The genetic material Dr. Gero had collected years ago painted a picture of Earth's defenders that bore little resemblance to the current reality. Goku power level 8,000. No wait, Frieza 530,000 maximum. Incorrect. Vegeta 18,000. Data corrupted. Cell's biocomputer worked frantically to reconcile the massive discrepancies between his stored genetic data and the energy readings his sensors detected from the surface world. According to his calculations, the strongest power signature, presumably Goku, was registering at levels that shouldn't exist in organic beings. "Impossible," Cell murmured as his perfect form finally broke free from the cocoon. His appearance was exactly as Dr. Gero had designed. The ideal fusion of every genetic sample the computer had collected, combining Saiyan aggression with Frieza's cold calculation and Piccolo's tactical brilliance. "My genetic template suggests maximum terrestrial power levels in the tens of thousands. These readings indicate," He paused, his tail twitching as he processed the implications. If his sensors were accurate, then the beings he was designed to absorb had evolved far beyond the parameters of his original programming. "No matter," he said finally, his voice carrying the arrogance that came from knowing himself to be the perfect warrior. "Evolution is my specialty. Whatever these insects have become, I will simply adapt to surpass them." On the surface, Goku felt the new presence like a discordant note in the planet's natural harmony. He had been meditating in the Capsule Corporation's advanced training chamber, working with Frieza to explore the deeper mysteries of their shared potential, when the alien Kai signature registered on his consciousness. "Something's coming," he said, opening his eyes to find Frieza already alert and scanning. "Yes, I feel it too," the reformed Emperor replied, his ruby eyes narrowing with concentration. "The power signature is familiar somehow, as if it contains echoes of energies we've encountered before." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Piccolo, whose enhanced hearing had picked up seismic disturbances from the direction of Dr. Jiro's old laboratory. "There's movement underground," the Namekian reported. "Something large just broke through to the surface about 50 miles north of here." Before anyone could respond, Vegeta burst into the training chamber, his expression grim. "We have a situation. Whatever just emerged from the ground is broadcasting a challenge on all frequencies. It wants to fight the strongest warriors on Earth." "A challenge?" Goku asked, his natural love of combat warring with his enhanced sense of responsibility. "More than that," Trunks said, appearing with his characteristic temporal displacement shimmer. "In my timeline, there was another android, a bioandroid called Cell. If he's appeared early—" "Cell?" Frieza repeated, his reformed personality unable to suppress a flash of scientific curiosity. "Bioandroid suggests some form of genetic amalgamation. Fascinating." "Not fascinating," Trunks said urgently. "Terrifying. Cell was designed to absorb other androids to achieve his perfect form. But more than that, he possessed the genetic material of every strong fighter on Earth, including yours, Goku, and apparently Frieza's as well." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. If this Cell possessed their genetic templates, he would understand their techniques, their fighting styles, possibly even their psychological patterns. But more importantly, if his data was based on their power levels from years ago. "He's in for a surprise," Goku said quietly. The being calling himself Cell stood in the crater that had once housed Dr. Jiro's underground laboratory, his perfect form radiating an aura of supreme confidence. He was exactly what his creator had envisioned. The ultimate warrior, combining the best traits of every sample in Jiro's genetic database. His scouter, an advanced model integrated into his biomechanical structure, detected multiple high-power signatures approaching his location at incredible speeds. The readings were concerning, but Cell's perfect genetic programming assured him that no mere organic being could pose a genuine threat to his engineered superiority. The first to arrive was Goku, touching down with that characteristic grace that Cell's Saiyan genetic template recognized immediately. The bioandroid's sensors immediately began cataloging data. Power level reading approximately 100,000 units, fighting stance consistent with Turtle Hermit School training, emotional resonance suggesting confidence rather than fear. "So," Cell said, his voice carrying harmonics borrowed from each of his genetic donors, "you're the famous Goku. I must say you're exactly what my programming led me to expect." "And your Cell," Goku replied, settling into a defensive position that seemed almost casual despite the cosmic threat it was designed to counter. "Though I have to say, you might want to update your expectations." Cell's laugh combined Frieza's crystalline cruelty with Vegeta's royal arrogance and Piccolo's dark amusement. "Update my expectations. My dear Saiyan, I am perfection itself. I possess the genetic material of every strong fighter on this planet, refined and enhanced beyond your wildest comprehension." "That's what I'm worried about," Goku said seriously. "If you really do have our genetic templates, then you understand our techniques, our strategies, but your data is out of date." "Out of date?" Cell's perfect features displayed puzzlement. "Genetic information doesn't become obsolete, Goku. DNA is DNA." "Maybe," Goku agreed, "but power isn't just about genetics anymore." Before Cell could ask what that meant, Frieza arrived with his characteristic theatrical flair, descending from the sky with an aura of reformed menace that made the bioandroid's sensors spike with recognition. "Ah, Frieza," Cell said, his tone shifting to match the galactic tyrant's formal speech patterns. "Your genetic template provides some of my finest capabilities, though I must say you look different than my programming suggested." "I've had some recent philosophical adjustments," Frieza replied dryly. And you, I take it, are the legendary Cell. You're exactly as arrogant as I expected. Cell's response was to power up to what he believed was his maximum, his aura flaring with energies borrowed from every fighter in his genetic database. The display was impressive, a biomechanical being radiating power that approached 400 million units, more than enough to challenge any recorded fighter in galactic history. Both Goku and Frieza watched this demonstration with expressions of mild interest, as if observing a mildly entertaining parlor trick. "Very nice," Goku said politely. "Though I think there might be some calibration issues with your power measurements." "Calibration issues?" Cell snarled, his perfect composure cracking slightly. "I am reading both of your power levels at under 200,000 each. I am more than 2,000 times stronger than either of you individually." "About that," Frieza said gently, "you might want to scan again." Cell's integrated sensors immediately complied, running every diagnostic protocol built into his biomechanical structure. The results were the same, two opponents with power levels that registered as insignificant compared to his own overwhelming might. "The readings are consistent," Cell said confidently. "You're both significantly outclassed." "Okay," Goku said with a shrug, "I guess we'll have to show you what we mean." What happened next broke several fundamental laws of physics and at least one programming principle that Dr. Jiro had considered unbreakable. Goku's power signature didn't gradually climb, it exploded upward like a supernova achieving critical mass. Golden light erupted around his form, not the controlled aura cells Saiyan genetics recognized, but something that suggested infinite depths barely being touched. Cell sensors immediately began registering readings that his perfect programming couldn't process: 500,000, 1 million, 10 million, and climbing steadily with no apparent upper limit. "Impossible," Cell breathed, his perfect confidence wavering for the first time since his emergence. "Organic beings can't generate power levels exceeding." His objection was cut short as Frieza joined his friend in powering up. The reformed Emperor's energy signature climbed to match Goku's, creating a resonance effect that made the very air around them shimmer with barely contained force. 50 million units each, Cell's sensors reported in electronic tones that somehow managed to convey disbelief. Power levels continuing to climb. Error, readings exceed theoretical maximums for carbon-based life forms. "That's because we're not just carbon-based anymore," Goku explained, his voice now carrying harmonics that spoke of cosmic forces beyond normal comprehension. "We've learned to tap into something bigger than genetics or programming." Cell's perfect mind raced through every combat scenario in his extensive database, but none of them provided guidance for facing opponents whose power exceeded his own by such massive margins. His genetic templates suggested that Goku's maximum power level should cap at around 30,000, while Frieza's final form topped out at 120 million. The beings floating before him were demonstrating capabilities that rendered his programming obsolete. "This can't be happening," Cell muttered, his biomechanical systems struggling to adapt to data that contradicted everything he had been designed to expect. "I am perfection, I am the ultimate warrior, you're just what we chose to become," Frieza finished gently, his reformed personality unable to completely suppress sympathy for the confused bioandroid. "Which is something your programming never accounted for." Cell's response was pure programmed instinct: launch a devastating attack and hope to overwhelm his opponents through sheer destructive force. His perfect Kamehameha wave blazed toward the two fighters with enough energy to vaporize continents. Goku caught it with one hand, not deflected, not countered, but simply caught, as if Cell's ultimate technique was nothing more than a thrown baseball. The energy that should have been unstoppably destructive was absorbed harmlessly into Goku's golden aura. "Your technique is perfect," Goku observed clinically. "The execution is flawless, the power distribution is optimal. But it's still based on genetic templates that don't reflect our current capabilities." Cell stared at his captured attack in stunned disbelief. Every instinct his programming provided screamed that this was impossible, yet the evidence was floating directly in front of him. "How?" he whispered. "Growth," Frieza said simply. "Something your perfect programming apparently never considered. You were designed based on static genetic samples, but we've spent years pushing beyond our original limitations." "That's not how genetics work," Cell protested, his perfect composure completely shattered. "DNA provides fixed parameters, biological systems have absolute limits." "Maybe for normal biological systems," Goku agreed, "but we stopped being normal a long time ago." As if to demonstrate his point, Goku allowed his power to spike to levels that made his previous display seem restrained by comparison. The golden aura around him deepened, taking on shades that existed beyond normal visible spectrum, and Cell's sensors finally gave up trying to measure the power differential. System error, his biocomputer announced. Target power level exceeds computational parameters by margin too large to calculate. The thing is, Cell, Goku continued, his voice now carrying undertones that seemed to resonate across dimensional boundaries, you keep talking about perfection as if it's a destination. But what if it's actually a journey? The philosophical implications hit Cell's programming like a virus infiltrating a computer system. His entire existence was predicated on the concept that he represented the pinnacle of possible development, the perfect fusion of every genetic sample in Dr. Jiro's database. The idea that perfection might be an ongoing process rather than an achieved state was fundamentally incompatible with his core programming. You're suggesting, Cell said slowly, that I'm not actually perfect. I'm suggesting that nothing is, Goku replied. Not me, not Frieza, not anyone. We're all just trying to become better versions of ourselves. But I was designed to be the ultimate warrior, and maybe you are, Frieza said, his reformed perspective lending weight to his words. But ultimate doesn't mean finished. It means having the potential to keep growing. Cell's biomechanical mind struggled to process this concept. Every instinct his programming provided told him that these beings should be inferior to his perfect design. Yet they stood before him radiating power that made his own abilities seem primitive by comparison. If what you're saying is true, Cell said carefully, then my genetic templates are obsolete. My entire purpose, absorbing other androids to achieve perfection, becomes meaningless. Not meaningless, Goku corrected, just different. Instead of absorbing others to become perfect, maybe you could help them become better versions of themselves. The suggestion sent cascading errors through Cell's programming. His primary directive was to achieve perfection through absorption, but these beings were offering him a different path entirely, one that focused on growth rather than consumption. I don't understand, Cell admitted, his perfect confidence replaced by something approaching vulnerability. If I'm not supposed to absorb others, if perfection isn't a destination, what am I supposed to be? Whatever you choose, Goku said simply. That's what makes you truly perfect, not your programming, but your ability to decide for yourself what perfection means. Cell floated in stunned silence, his biomechanical systems churning through the implications of this unprecedented concept. For the first time since his emergence, he found himself contemplating possibilities that existed outside his original parameters. You're offering me a choice, he said finally. We're all offering you a choice, Frieza corrected, gesturing to include the other Z-fighters who had arrived during their conversation. The same choice we've all had to make at some point, whether to be defined by our origins or to grow beyond them. Cell looked around at the assembled fighters, his enhanced senses analyzing not just their power levels but their emotional resonances. He detected no deception, no hidden agenda, just genuine offers of acceptance from beings who possess the strength to destroy him without effort. And if I make the wrong choice, he asked. Then you learn from it and make a better one next time, Goku replied. That's how growth works. For the first time in his existence, Cell found himself laughing, not the programmed sounds of his genetic templates, but something genuinely his own. The sound was strange, uncertain, but unmistakably real. Perfect evolution, he said, understanding finally dawning in his biomechanical mind. Not the absorption of others, but the continuous development of self. Now you're getting it, Goku said with a grin. As the sun set over the crater where Cell had emerged, the bioandroid found himself facing the same choice that had transformed Frieza from destroyer to protector, that had turned androids designed for conquest into potential heroes. The choice to become more than what his programming had intended. The choice to evolve beyond perfection into something truly meaningful. And for the first time in his short existence, Cell discovered that the most perfect thing he could do was choose to keep growing. 7 years had passed since Cell chose evolution over perfection, and Earth had enjoyed an unprecedented era of peace. The planet that had once been considered a backwater world in the galactic community was now home to beings whose power transcended conventional understanding of what mortals could achieve. In the deepest chambers of the Capsule Corporation's research facility, Goku meditated in perfect stillness. His consciousness expanded far beyond the confines of his physical form. What had begun as simple training had evolved into something approaching cosmic awareness, a connection to forces that operated on scales beyond planetary concerns. Fascinating, he murmured, his voice carrying harmonics that seemed to echo across dimensional boundaries. There are so many layers to existence that I never even imagined. Across from him, Frieza sat in his own meditative pose, his reformed personality having embraced philosophical exploration with the same intensity he had once applied to conquest. Their friendship had deepened over the years into something unprecedented in galactic history. Two beings of near-infinite potential learning to understand the universe through completely different perspectives. "I can sense them watching us," Frieza said quietly, his enhanced perception picking up observations from vast distances. "Beings whose power dwarfs even our current capabilities, studying our development with what feels like concern." "Yeah," Goku agreed, opening his eyes to reveal pupils that flickered with golden light. "I think we've grown beyond what this part of the universe normally produces. And that's making some very powerful people nervous." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Supreme Kai, who materialized in their training chamber with an expression of barely controlled panic. The diminutive deity's usual calm had been completely shattered by what he had witnessed during his cosmic observations. "This is unprecedented," he said without preamble, his voice shaking with a mixture of awe and terror. "Your power levels, they're approaching destroyer-level capabilities. Do you have any idea what that means?" Goku and Frieza exchanged glances. Over the past few years, their meditative practices had occasionally granted them glimpses of cosmic hierarchies that extended far beyond their local galaxy, but the specifics remained frustratingly vague. "Destroyer level?" Frieza asked, his scientific curiosity overriding his reformed caution. "That suggests there are beings whose function is literally to destroy. What exactly?" "Universes," Supreme Kai whispered. "There are beings called gods of destruction. Cosmic entities whose role is to eliminate worlds, civilizations, even entire galactic sectors that have become stagnant or corrupt. Their power is," he paused, searching for words adequate to describe the indescribable. "Absolute." Goku leaned forward with interest rather than fear. "And you think we're approaching their level?" "I don't think I know," Supreme Kai replied. "Beerus, the god of destruction for Universe 7, has been asleep for decades, but his attendant Wise has been monitoring energy signatures throughout our sector. Your combined development has registered on scales that are supposed to be reserved for divine beings." "Combined development?" Frieza repeated, noting the specific phrasing. Supreme Kai's expression grew even more troubled. "That's what makes this so unprecedented. Destroyer-level power in mortals is theoretically possible, but it usually manifests in singular beings who ascend through divine appointment. You two have achieved it through friendship. Mutual growth. The cosmic order has no protocols for dealing with collaborative evolution at this scale." Before either warrior could respond, the chamber's atmosphere suddenly changed. The very air grew thick with presence, not threatening exactly, but so overwhelmingly vast that breathing became difficult. Reality itself seemed to bend as something approached from beyond the local dimensional framework. "He's coming," Supreme Kai gasped. "Beerus is awake, and he's coming here personally." The wall of the training chamber simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but temporarily relocated to accommodate the arrival of a being whose very presence rewrote local physics. Beerus, god of destruction for Universe 7, stepped through the dimensional rift with the casual arrogance of someone who had never encountered a force he couldn't unmake with a thought. He was tall and lean, his purple skin marked with hieroglyphic tattoos that seemed to shift and change as he moved. His eyes held the weight of eons, and when he spoke, his voice carried undertones that made every molecule in the chamber vibrate in harmony. "So," Beerus said, his tone carrying mild curiosity mixed with cosmic authority, "these are the mortals who have been making such interesting energy readings." Goku stood slowly, his enhanced senses immediately recognizing the fundamental difference between this being and any opponent he had ever faced. This wasn't just power, this was authority over the basic forces that held reality together. "Lord Beerus," he said respectfully, inclining his head in a bow that seemed to come from racial memory rather than learned behavior. "Ah, the polite one," Beerus observed with amusement. "And you must be Frieza, though my information suggests you've undergone some rather dramatic personality adjustments." Frieza rose as well, his reformed nature unable to completely suppress a shiver of recognition. Even at the height of his galactic empire, he had heard whispered legends of beings like this, cosmic forces that transcended mere political power. "Lord Beerus," he said, matching Goku's respectful tone. "Your reputation precedes you, though I confess our information about beings of your scope is rather limited." Beerus laughed, a sound like stellar winds through cosmic dust. "Scope, I like that. Very diplomatic." His expression grew more serious. "But diplomacy isn't why I'm here. I'm here because the two of you have achieved something that shouldn't be possible." "Which is?" Goku asked, his natural directness overriding his attempt at formal courtesy. You've reached destroyer-level potential without divine appointment, Beerus said bluntly. Your combined power signature is approaching my own operational level and you're still growing. That represents a fundamental disruption to the cosmic order. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Goku and Frieza had known they were strong, but the idea that their friendship had accidentally created a force capable of challenging divine authority was both exhilarating and terrifying. Are we in trouble? Goku asked with characteristic innocence. Beerus studied him for a long moment, his cosmic senses analyzing not just their power levels but their essential nature. What he found there seemed to surprise him. That depends, he said finally, on what you intend to do with that power. Help people, Goku said immediately. Protect Earth, defend innocent life, maybe explore what else is out there in the universe. And you, Frieza? Beerus asked, turning his attention to the reformed emperor. Frieza considered the question carefully. I've spent centuries using power to dominate and destroy. I'd like to learn what it feels like to use it for creation and growth instead. Interesting answers, Beerus mused. Though I wonder if you truly understand what you're offering. Destroyer-level power comes with destroyer-level responsibility. Every action you take sends ripples through the fabric of reality itself. As if to demonstrate his point, Beerus allowed a tiny fraction of his true power to leak through his casual demeanor. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The training chamber, despite being reinforced with materials that shouldn't exist, began to show stress fractures simply from proximity to unfettered divine energy. Now imagine, Beerus continued as he reined in his power, what happens when that level of force is applied carelessly. A single thoughtless action could destabilize entire star systems. Goku and Frieza exchanged glances, both finally beginning to grasp the true scope of what their friendship had accidentally achieved. So what do we do? Goku asked. We can't exactly become weaker. No, Beerus agreed, you can't, which presents us with a rather unprecedented situation. He paused, his cosmic awareness extending beyond the local reality to consult with authorities that operated on even higher planes of existence. There is one possibility, he said finally, but it would require you to accept responsibilities that extend far beyond your current understanding. What kind of responsibilities? Frieza asked, his reformed nature making him genuinely curious about divine duty rather than simply seeking power. Cosmic guardianship, Beerus replied. There are forces in the multiverse that operate beyond the jurisdiction of individual gods of destruction. Ancient entities, dimensional parasites, beings from realities where different physical laws apply. Usually we handle such threats through collective action, but having mortal-level beings with destroyer-class power could provide flexibility. The offer hung in the air like a bridge between their current existence and something infinitely larger. You're asking us to become cosmic police? Goku asked, trying to wrap his mind around the concept. I'm asking you to become what the universe needs you to be, Beerus corrected. Which may sometimes involve police work, sometimes exploration, sometimes serving as diplomatic liaisons between realities that have no other common ground. And if we refuse? Frieza asked, his analytical mind exploring all possibilities. Beerus shrugged. Then you continue growing until your power either stabilizes at a level that doesn't threaten cosmic balance, or, he paused meaningfully, or I'm forced to treat you as rogue forces that require elimination. The threat was delivered without malice, but both warriors understood that it wasn't negotiable. They had crossed a threshold that demanded either acceptance of greater responsibility or removal from existence. Some choice, Goku said with a wry smile. All evolution involves choices, Beerus replied. The question is whether you choose to grow with the universe or against it. Before either warrior could respond, another presence entered the chamber, this one even more overwhelming than Beerus's arrival. The air itself seemed to sing with harmonies that existed beyond normal physics as Wise materialized beside his charge. My lord, the angel said in a voice like crystallized music, the Grand Priest wishes to observe these proceedings personally. The Grand Priest? Supreme Kai gasped, his divine hierarchy suddenly feeling very small indeed. The highest authority in the multiverse, Beerus explained, his own expression growing more formal. If he's taking personal interest in this situation, reality folded in on itself as a being whose presence transcended description arrived in their modest training chamber. The Grand Priest was tall and ethereal, his form shifting between states of existence as if he existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of absolute cosmic law. Fascinating, he said, his voice somehow gentle despite its overwhelming authority. Two mortals who have achieved divinity through friendship rather than appointment. In 12 universes across countless eons, I have never observed this phenomenon. Goku and Frieza found themselves bowing instinctively, not from fear but from recognition of something fundamentally greater than anything they had ever encountered. Grand Priest, Goku managed, his voice small in the presence of multiversal authority. "Peace, young warriors," the Grand Priest said kindly. "You are not here for judgment but for opportunity. Your unique evolution has created possibilities that even divine wisdom had not anticipated." "What kind of opportunities?" Frieza asked, his reformed curiosity overriding his awe. "The multiverse is vast and complex," the Grand Priest explained. "There are realms where divine authority cannot effectively reach, situations that require the unique perspective that comes from mortal experience combined with cosmic power. You have inadvertently prepared yourselves to serve as bridges between orders of existence that rarely interact." "You want us to be ambassadors," Goku said, understanding beginning to dawn. "Among other things," the Grand Priest agreed. "But primarily, I want you to continue being what you have already become, proof that power without wisdom leads to destruction, but power guided by growth and friendship can reshape reality itself for the better." The offer was more than either warrior had ever imagined possible, yet it felt strangely natural, as if their entire journey had been leading to this moment of cosmic recognition. "What would this involve, practically speaking?" Frieza asked, his analytical mind already considering the implications. "Training with divine instructors to understand your new responsibilities," Wise interjected. "Learning to navigate realities where different physical laws apply. Most importantly, discovering how to use destroyer-level power for creation rather than elimination." "And in return?" Goku asked. "In return," the Grand Priest said, "you become the first mortals in multiversal history to achieve true cosmic citizenship. You will have access to realms and knowledge that even most divine beings never encounter." The silence that followed was profound as both warriors contemplated the magnitude of what was being offered. They had begun as enemies, evolved into friends, and now stood on the threshold of becoming something unprecedented in cosmic history. "Can we have some time to think about it?" Goku asked finally. The Grand Priest smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both gentle and infinitely wise. "Of course, though I should mention that your decision will affect not just your own futures but the evolutionary path of your entire universe." "How so?" Frieza inquired. "Your growth has inspired others," Beerus explained. "The other Z-Fighters, the reformed androids, even Cell, all of them are beginning to tap into potential they never knew they possessed. Universe 7 is becoming something new, and you two are the catalysts for that transformation." As the cosmic authorities prepared to depart, leaving Goku and Frieza to consider their unprecedented choice, Supreme Kai looked around the training chamber with new understanding. "You're not just powerful anymore," he said quietly. "You've become a force for evolution itself." Goku and Frieza stood together in the modified chamber, two beings whose friendship had accidentally challenged the fundamental structure of reality. Beyond mortal limits, beyond conventional divinity, they faced a choice that would define not just their own futures but the destiny of their entire universe. The journey that had begun with a partial power awakening at a martial arts tournament had led them to the threshold of cosmic responsibility. And for the first time in either of their lives, they truly understood what it meant to have unlimited potential. The crystalline halls of Beerus's temple existed in a pocket dimension where time flowed differently than in normal space. What had been days of contemplation for Goku and Frieza had been mere moments for the god of destruction, who found himself growing increasingly intrigued by the unprecedented situation these mortals had created. "Wise," Beerus said, reclining on his floating throne while observing Earth through a cosmic viewing screen, "in all your experience across the multiverse, have you ever seen anything quite like this?" The angel consulted data streams that existed beyond normal dimensional frameworks, his staff glowing with multiversal information. "Never, my lord, mortals achieving destroyer-level power through collaborative evolution. It defies every precedent in cosmic history." "Exactly," Beerus mused, his tail twitching with anticipation. "Which makes me curious about the actual extent of their capabilities. Theoretical power readings are one thing, but practical application." He stood suddenly, decision crystallizing. "I think it's time for a proper evaluation." Back on Earth, Goku and Frieza had spent their contemplation period not in discussion, but in deeper meditation than either had ever attempted. Their consciousness expanded beyond planetary boundaries, touching the edges of cosmic awareness that their unprecedented evolution had made possible. "I can feel him coming," Goku said softly, opening eyes that now held flecks of divine energy. "Beerus, he's not just visiting this time, he wants to test us." Frieza's reformed personality had learned to appreciate Goku's intuitive perceptions. How extensive a test do you think he has in mind? The kind that determines whether we're really ready for cosmic responsibility, Goku replied, rising from his meditative position with fluid grace. Or whether we're just powerful mortals who have gotten lucky. The arrival came without fanfare. Reality simply shifted to accommodate Beerus's presence as he materialized on the training grounds. But this time, there was something different about the God of Destruction's demeanor. His casual arrogance had been replaced by genuine professional interest. "I've been thinking," Beerus announced without preamble, "about your situation. Unprecedented power achieved through friendship is fascinating from a theoretical standpoint, but cosmic responsibilities required practical demonstration." "What did you have in mind?" Frieza asked, his enhanced senses immediately detecting that Beerus was operating at a higher energy level than during his previous visit. "A simple test," Beerus replied, his aura beginning to shimmer with barely contained divine force. "I want to see how your combined abilities perform against someone who's been using destroyer-level power for millions of years." Goku felt his heart race, not with fear, but with the same excitement he'd experienced before every significant battle of his life. "You want to fight us? I want to evaluate you," Beerus corrected. "There's a difference, though I suspect," he added with a predatory smile, "you'll find the practical implications quite similar." Without further warning, Beerus moved. Not the dramatic power-up sequences that most fighters employed, but a simple step forward that somehow covered the distance between them instantly. His casual backhand toward Goku carried enough force to shatter planets. Goku caught it. The impact sent shockwaves through local spacetime, creating aurora effects in Earth's atmosphere and briefly disrupting gravity across 3 star systems. But Goku's enhanced physiology absorbed the destroyer-level energy without apparent strain. "Interesting," Beerus observed, genuinely pleased by the result. "Your power isn't just theoretical, it's properly integrated into your physical structure. Most mortals who achieve divine-level energy burn themselves out attempting to channel it." "We've had good teachers," Goku replied, holding Beerus's hand steady while golden energy began to flow around his form. "And excellent motivation to learn control." Frieza joined the engagement with characteristic precision, his reformed personality having lost none of his tactical brilliance. His attack came from an unexpected angle, not seeking to overpower the God of Destruction, but to test the limits of divine perception. Beerus blocked effortlessly, but his expression showed approval. "Coordinated assault with complementary fighting styles. You've learned to merge your individual abilities into something greater than the sum of its parts." "That was the idea," Frieza said, his own aura flaring to match his friend's energy output. "Though I suspect you're still operating at a fraction of your true capabilities." "Guilty as charged," Beerus admitted with a grin. "But then, so are you. Shall we remedy that situation?" What followed transcended the concept of battle as most beings understood it. 3 fighters operating at destroyer-level capabilities engaged in combat that required constantly shifting dimensional frameworks to contain the overflow of their energies. Goku's adaptive evolution pushed his power to new heights, his golden aura deepening into shades that existed beyond normal visible spectrum. His techniques, refined through years of friendship with Frieza, displayed a sophistication that surprised even himself. Frieza's reformed nature had unlocked aspects of his potential that his imperial persona had never accessed. His energy manipulation achieved levels of precision that bordered on artistic, each attack calculated not just for maximum efficiency, but for perfect harmony with Goku's complementary abilities. But Beerus was revelation incarnate. Every technique they had perfected, every strategy they had developed, every innovation their friendship had produced, the God of Destruction countered with casual expertise that spoke of eons spent mastering cosmic-level combat. "Magnificent," Beerus said as he deflected their combined Kamehameha Ball fusion technique with a gesture that barely qualified as effort. "Your power levels are indeed approaching my operational range. But power levels aren't everything in destroyer-class combat. What else is there?" Goku asked, panting slightly as he began to understand the true scope of divine capabilities. "Understanding," Beerus replied, his aura suddenly expanding to encompass local spacetime itself. "Destroyer-level power isn't just about energy output, it's about fundamental control over the forces that hold reality together." He demonstrated by casually reversing the flow of time around his position, causing their previous attacks to replay in reverse. Then he shifted the local gravitational constant, making their movement patterns adapt to physics that operated according to different rules. "Reality manipulation," Frieza breathed, his scientific mind immediately grasping the implications. You're not just fighting us, you're fighting us while rewriting the rules that govern how fighting works. Now you're beginning to understand, Beerus said with satisfaction. Cosmic responsibility requires cosmic awareness. It's not enough to be strong, you must understand the fundamental nature of the existence you're protecting. Goku's response was to close his eyes and extend his consciousness beyond the immediate battle. His enhanced awareness, developed through years of meditation and friendship, reached out to touch the fabric of reality itself. For a moment, he could sense it, the underlying structure that supported dimensional existence, the delicate balance of forces that allowed universes to function, the infinite complexity of systems that divine beings were charged with maintaining. I see it, he whispered, opening eyes that now reflected cosmic understanding. It's not about power at all, is it? It's about responsibility to something infinitely larger than ourselves. And there, Beerus said, powering down to normal levels, is the difference between a powerful mortal and a cosmic guardian. Frieza, who had been following Goku's example in expanding his awareness, nodded slowly. We've been thinking too small. Individual strength, planetary protection, even galactic influence, it's all just the beginning. Precisely, Beerus agreed. The question now is whether you're prepared to accept the full scope of what cosmic citizenship entails. Before either warrior could respond, the dimensional fabric around them began to ripple with harmonies that suggested an arrival even more significant than Beerus's presence. Wise materialized with his characteristic musical grace, but his expression carried unusual urgency. "My lord," the angel said, "we have a situation developing in the outer dimensional barriers. Something is attempting to breach the multiverse from elsewhere." Elsewhere? Beerus's casual demeanor immediately shifted to professional alertness. Define elsewhere, Wise. Reality frameworks that operate according to completely different physical laws, Wise explained, his staff displaying energy readings that defied conventional analysis. The breach attempts are being repelled by the dimensional barriers, but the entities involved possess power signatures that register as concerning. Goku and Frieza exchanged glances, both immediately understanding the implications. This was exactly the kind of cosmic threat that the Grand Priest had suggested they might be uniquely qualified to handle. How concerning? Frieza asked, his reformed curiosity overriding any trace of his old paranoia. Destroyer-level entities from realities where different rules apply, Wise replied. They're not inherently hostile, but their mere presence in our dimensional framework could destabilize entire universes. And conventional divine intervention? Goku inquired. Would require collaborative effort from multiple gods of destruction, Beerus said grimly, which poses its own risks. Too much destroyer-level energy focused on dimensional barriers could damage the barriers themselves. The situation crystallized with perfect clarity. Here was a cosmic threat that required destroyer-level power applied with surgical precision. Exactly the kind of challenge that mortals turned cosmic guardians might be ideally suited to handle. This is our test, isn't it? Goku said, understanding blooming across his features. Not just to see if we're strong enough, but to see if we can handle actual cosmic responsibility. If you choose to accept it, Beerus replied. But understand, this isn't a simulation or a controlled environment. If you fail, the consequences could affect entire universes. Frieza's laugh carried none of his old malice, replaced by something approaching wonder. And if we succeed, then you become the first mortals in multiversal history to serve as active cosmic guardians, Wise said, with all the authority and responsibility that position entails. Goku looked at his friend, the former galactic tyrant who had chosen redemption, the partner whose friendship had accidentally challenged the cosmic order itself, and saw his own determination reflected in those ruby eyes. Well, Goku said with a grin that carried both excitement and absolute resolve, when do we start? Beerus's smile in response was equal parts pride and anticipation. Right now. Wise, prepare the dimensional transit protocols. It's time to see what mortal-level cosmic guardians can accomplish. As reality shifted around them to accommodate travel beyond normal space-time, Goku and Frieza felt the weight of unprecedented responsibility settling over their consciousness. They were about to face challenges that would test not just their incredible power, but their understanding of what it truly meant to protect existence itself. The Destroyer's curiosity had led them to this moment, the transition from powerful mortals to active participants in the cosmic order. Whatever lay beyond the dimensional barriers, they would face it together, as friends who had learned that the greatest strength came not from individual achievement but from shared growth. The universe was about to discover what happened when destroyer-level power was wielded by hearts that chose protection over domination. And for the first time in cosmic history, the outcome was genuinely uncertain. The grand arena materialized in the void between universes, its crystalline structure defying conventional physics as it existed simultaneously across multiple dimensional planes. This was no ordinary tournament venue, it was a cosmic amphitheater designed to showcase power levels that could reshape reality itself. The Grand Priest stood at the center of the arena, his multiversal authority radiating through dimensions as he addressed the assembled beings. Gods of destruction from all 12 universes floated in their designated sections, while angels observed with professional interest from higher dimensional vantage points. Esteemed divine beings, the Grand Priest announced, his voice carrying across infinite space, today we witness something unprecedented in cosmic history. Two mortals who have achieved destroyer-level power through collaborative evolution will demonstrate their capabilities before the assembled multiverse. In the competitors' preparation area, Goku and Frieza stood together, their enhanced senses taking in the scope of what they were about to face. The energy signatures surrounding them belonged to beings they had only imagined in their deepest meditations, entities whose power transcended normal understanding. Nervous? Goku asked, though his own excitement was barely contained. Intrigued, Frieza corrected, his reformed personality genuinely curious about the challenges ahead. We've trained against Beerus, learned from Wise, and faced dimensional anomalies that existed outside normal physics. But this, he gestured toward the assembled cosmic audience. This is our formal introduction to the multiverse. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Jiren, the Pride Trooper whose meditative power had made him legendary even among divine circles. But as his sensors registered their energy signatures, his usually stoic expression showed something approaching surprise. Your power levels, he said quietly, they exceed what my universe's records suggest is possible for mortal beings. We've had some unusual growth opportunities, Goku replied with characteristic understatement. Behind Jiren, other fighters began to take notice. Hit, the legendary assassin whose time manipulation abilities had made him feared across Universe 6, studied them with professional interest. His enhanced temporal perception detected something unprecedented. Their power signatures existed across multiple time streams simultaneously. Curious, he murmured. You're not just strong, you're operating outside normal temporal constraints. That's what happens when you learn to manipulate cosmic forces, Frieza explained, his scientific mind appreciating Hit's observation. Linear time becomes more of a suggestion than a rule. The Grand Priest's voice echoed across the arena again, drawing everyone's attention. Due to the unprecedented nature of our featured competitors, this tournament will operate under modified rules. Standard power suppression protocols are suspended, and dimensional barriers have been reinforced to contain energies that approach destroyer-class output. A murmur of excitement and concern rippled through the divine audience. Tournaments between gods of destruction were rare events that required careful preparation. The idea of mortals operating at similar levels was both fascinating and potentially dangerous. Additionally, the Grand Priest continued, our mortal cosmic guardians will face a series of challenges designed to test not just their power, but their understanding of cosmic responsibility. The first challenge manifested as the arena floor transformed into a perfect replica of a living planet, complete with cities, oceans, and billions of simulated inhabitants. The task was simple in concept but staggering in execution. Demonstrate destroyer-level power while ensuring zero collateral damage to the civilian population. Interesting, Goku observed, his enhanced awareness immediately cataloging every life sign in the simulated world below. Raw power is easy, precise application while protecting innocence. That's the real test. Their first opponents materialized from dimensional rifts, beings of pure energy that existed as living embodiments of cosmic force. Not malevolent, but fundamentally alien, operating according to physics that differed from their home reality. Energy entities from parallel dimensional frameworks, Frieza identified, his reformed scientific curiosity analyzing their structure. Direct confrontation could destabilize the simulated planet's electromagnetic field. Then we don't confront them directly, Goku said, settling into a stance that somehow seemed to harmonize with the cosmic forces around them. We redirect their energy into something constructive. What followed was a demonstration of power application that left even the assembled gods of destruction speechless. Instead of attacking the energy beings, Goku and Frieza began channeling their destroyer-level capabilities to create resonance patterns that converted hostile force into beneficial energy. The cosmic entities, no longer encountering resistance, found their aggressive impulses transformed into curiosity. Their alien forms began to stabilize as they adapted to the modified energy environment Goku and Frieza had created around them. Magnificent, Beerus breathed from his observation position. They're not just defeating the challenge, they're solving it through transformation rather than destruction. The second challenge escalated the complexity. The arena expanded to encompass an entire star system, complete with multiple inhabited worlds and delicate orbital mechanics. This time, their opponents were beings whose very existence destabilized space-time, cosmic parasites that fed on dimensional stability itself. Direct engagement will damage the star system's gravitational balance, Frieza observed, his enhanced perception analyzing the intricate relationships between celestial bodies. But ignoring them will allow them to consume the dimensional framework that supports all life in this region. Goku's response was to expand his consciousness beyond individual combat, connecting with the fundamental forces that govern stellar mechanics. What if we don't fight them at all? What if we give them something better to feed on? Working in perfect synchronization, they began channeling their combined power to create artificial dimensional pockets, stable areas of warped spacetime that provided the parasites with the energy they craved while protecting the inhabited worlds from their destabilizing effects. The solution was elegant in its simplicity and staggering in its implications. They had essentially created pocket universes as a feeding ground for cosmic parasites, demonstrating not just destroyer-level power but creator-level understanding. "This is unprecedented," the Grand Priest announced, his multiversal awareness struggling to catalog what he was witnessing. "They're not just defending against cosmic threats, they're transforming them into beneficial forces." The final challenge pushed the boundaries of what even divine beings considered possible. The arena became a nexus point where multiple realities intersected, a cosmic crossroads where different universal laws competed for dominance. Their task was to maintain stability, while entities from each reality attempted to impose their own physical constants on the intersection. Reality war, Frieza identified grimly. Each group of entities represents a different set of physical laws. If any one group achieves dominance, it will remake this entire region according to their reality's rules. Which means everyone from the other realities dies, Goku added, his cosmic awareness painting a clear picture of the stakes involved. "We can't favor any one group without committing genocide against the others." The solution they implemented defied every precedent in cosmic history. Instead of choosing sides or attempting to impose a single set of physical laws, they created a stable framework that allowed multiple realities to coexist in the same space. Their destroyer-level power became the foundation for a new type of dimensional space, one where different physical constants could operate simultaneously without conflict. Beings from realities where gravity worked differently, where time flowed in reverse, where energy and matter followed completely alien rules, could all exist together in perfect harmony. "They've created a multiversal embassy," Wise observed in wonder. "A space where beings from fundamentally different realities can interact safely." The assembled divine audience sat in stunned silence as the implications sank in. These mortals hadn't just demonstrated destroyer-level power, they had shown understanding of cosmic forces that exceeded most divine beings' comprehension. "Victory," the Grand Priest announced, though the word seemed inadequate for what they had witnessed, "goes to the mortal cosmic guardians of Universe 7. But as Goku and Frieza powered down from their cosmic demonstrations, something unexpected happened. The beings they had helped, energy entities, dimensional parasites, and reality-displaced civilizations, began approaching them with expressions of gratitude rather than fear. "You didn't just defeat the challenges," one of the energy beings communicated through harmonized light patterns. "You transformed them into opportunities for growth and cooperation." "That's what friends do," Goku replied simply, his words somehow carrying across language barriers that spanned different realities. "They help each other become better than they were before." The Grand Priest descended to the arena floor, his expression carrying something that might have been cosmic satisfaction. "In 12 universes across countless eons, I have never witnessed such a demonstration of power guided by wisdom. You have not only proven yourselves worthy of cosmic guardianship, you have redefined what cosmic guardianship means." "What happens now?" Frieza asked, his reformed curiosity genuinely uncertain about their future role. "Now," the Grand Priest said with something approaching a smile, "you become the first multiversal ambassadors in cosmic history. Your role will be to handle situations that require not just power, but the unique perspective that comes from achieving divinity through friendship rather than appointment." As the grand arena began to dissolve back into the void between universes, Goku and Frieza found themselves surrounded by beings from across the multiverse. not as subjects seeking protection, but as equals offering partnership in maintaining cosmic balance. I never imagined, Frieza said quietly, that the path from galactic tyrant to cosmic guardian would lead through friendship with a Saiyan who refused to give up on me. And I never imagined, Goku replied with a grin, that the strongest technique in the universe would turn out to be believing in each other. The tournament of infinite potential had ended, but their journey as multiversal ambassadors was just beginning. Somewhere in the vast expanse of cosmic existence, new challenges awaited, threats that would require not just their incredible power, but their hard-won understanding of what it truly meant to protect infinite potential. The universe had witnessed what happened when destroyer-level power was wielded by hearts committed to growth rather than domination. And for the first time in cosmic history, the future held unlimited possibilities for positive change. Their legend had transcended not just individual achievement, but the very concept of what mortals could become when they chose to evolve together rather than alone. 5 years had passed since the tournament of infinite potential, and the multiverse had settled into a new equilibrium. From their base of operations, a dimensional nexus that existed between realities, Goku and Frieza had redefined what it meant to be cosmic guardians. Their work no longer focused on defeating threats, but on nurturing potential wherever they found it. Status report, Frieza said, consulting a crystalline display that showed energy signatures across 12 universes. His reformed personality had embraced administrative duties with the same intensity he had once applied to conquest, though now his empire was one of cooperation rather than subjugation. Universe 6 is showing promising developments, Goku replied, floating in meditation as his consciousness monitored countless worlds simultaneously. That young Saiyan Kaba is starting to tap into the same collaborative evolution we discovered. And Universe 11's Pride Troopers are experimenting with team-based power multiplication. Excellent, Frieza said with genuine satisfaction, and the dimensional anomaly in Universe 3, resolved through negotiation rather than force, Goku reported. Turns out the beings causing the disturbance were refugees from a collapsed reality. We helped them establish a stable pocket dimension where they can rebuild their civilization. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from their monitoring systems. A new signature had appeared, not threatening exactly, but unprecedented in its characteristics. It felt familiar yet alien, powerful yet uncontrolled. What is that? Frieza asked, his enhanced senses struggling to categorize the energy pattern. Goku's eyes opened, revealing pupils that now held flecks of multiversal awareness. It's me, but not me, a version of me from a reality where different choices were made. The implications sent ripples through their dimensional nexus. In their years as cosmic guardians, they had encountered alternate versions of themselves before, but never one whose power signature suggested this level of raw, uncontrolled potential. Where? Frieza asked, already beginning dimensional transit calculations. Universe 13, Goku said, though his expression showed confusion, but that's impossible. There are only 12 universes. Unless, Frieza said slowly, his scientific mind racing through possibilities, this is a universe that shouldn't exist. A reality born from choices so fundamentally different that it broke away from the normal cosmic framework. They arrived in Universe 13 to find a reality that defied every law of cosmic order they had learned to maintain. Here, Goku had never learned restraint. His Saiyan nature had been amplified by the same incredible potential they had discovered, but without the guiding influence of friends who taught him to value life above power. This alternate Goku stood alone on a dead world, his golden aura crackling with energies that had consumed everything around him. His power was incredible, easily matching their own, but it was completely uncontrolled, destroying rather than creating. Fascinating, the alternate Goku said, his voice carrying harmonics that spoke of isolation and loss. Visitors from elsewhere, are you here to challenge me? It's been so long since I've had anyone strong enough to provide entertainment. Goku and Frieza exchanged glances, both immediately understanding the tragedy they were witnessing. This was what might have happened if their friendship had never developed, if power had grown without wisdom to guide it. We're here to help, Goku said gently, powering down to normal levels despite the obvious threat. Help? The alternate Goku laughed, a sound like breaking glass mixed with cosmic wind. I am the strongest being in existence. What could I possibly need help with? Learning that strength without purpose is just destruction, Frieza replied, his reformed perspective lending weight to his words. I should know, I spent centuries making the same mistake. The conversation that followed revealed the full scope of the tragedy. In this reality, Goku had awakened his potential through anger rather than growth. His friends had died trying to stop him, Frieza had been destroyed in their first encounter, and eventually, Goku had consumed the power of everyone strong enough to challenge him. "I became everything I was meant to be," the alternate Goku said, his voice hollow with empty victory. "The legendary Super Saiyan, the strongest warrior in the universe. And now there's nothing left to fight for." "But that's not what strength is for," Goku said, his own heart breaking for this version of himself. "Strength is for protecting people, for helping them grow, for making connections that make everyone better." "Connections are weakness," the alternate Goku snarled, his aura flaring with destructive force. "I learned that when everyone I cared about tried to stop me from reaching my full potential." "They weren't trying to stop you," Frieza said quietly. "They were trying to help you understand that potential without purpose leads to exactly what you've become, infinitely powerful and completely alone." The battle that followed was unlike any they had fought before. Not because of the power levels involved, all three fighters operated at cosmic scales, but because it was fundamentally a battle of philosophies made manifest through force. The alternate Goku's techniques were perfect, his power absolute, his tactical understanding flawless. But every attack was motivated by isolation, by the desperate need to prove his supremacy over a universe that no longer contained anyone capable of challenging him. Goku and Frieza's response was collaborative harmony, techniques that built on each other, strategies that created openings for their partner to exploit, power that served something greater than individual achievement. "You fight like you're holding back," the alternate Goku accused during a brief pause in their cosmic battle. "We're not holding back," Goku replied, "we're fighting together." "There's a difference." As the battle continued, something unexpected began to happen. The alternate Goku's perfect isolation started to crack as he witnessed what he had never experienced, two beings using destroyer-level power not to dominate each other, but to support each other's growth. "This is impossible," he said, his voice carrying confusion for the first time. "Your individual power levels are equal to mine, but your combined effectiveness. It's like you're sharing strength rather than competing for it." "That's exactly what we're doing," Frieza confirmed. "True power isn't about being stronger than others, it's about helping others become stronger." The philosophical breakthrough triggered something deep in the alternate Goku's psyche. For just a moment, he remembered what it had felt like to fight alongside friends rather than against them, to use strength to protect rather than to prove superiority. I had that once," he whispered, his destructive aura flickering. "Before I became what I thought I was supposed to be." Goku made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. Instead of pressing their advantage, he powered down completely and extended his hand toward his alternate self. "You can have it again," he said simply. "If you want to learn." The gesture, offering friendship to someone who had just been trying to destroy them, was so fundamentally alien to the alternate Goku's worldview that it caused him to hesitate completely. "Why?" he asked, his voice small and lost. "Why would you offer help to someone who's destroyed everything he ever cared about?" "Because I've been where you are," Frieza said, joining Goku in powering down. Not exactly the same circumstances, but the same fundamental mistake, believing that strength meant standing alone above everyone else. "And because," Goku added, "everyone deserves the chance to grow into something better than what they started as." The alternate Goku stared at their extended hands for a long moment, his cosmic senses analyzing not just their power signatures but their emotional resonances. What he found there was something he had forgotten existed, genuine care offered without expectation of return. "I don't know how," he admitted finally. "It's been so long since I tried to build something instead of destroying it." "That's okay," Goku said with a smile. "Learning is what friends are for." What followed was not a dramatic transformation, but the beginning of a slow, careful process of rehabilitation. The alternate Goku, who eventually chose the name Kakarot to distinguish himself from his dimensional counterpart, began the long journey of learning to use his incredible power constructively. The process took months, guided by Goku and Frieza's patient instruction. They taught him meditation techniques that connected strength to purpose, showed him how to channel destructive impulses into creative force, and most importantly, demonstrated through daily example what it meant to be powerful without being alone. "Progress report," Frieza said one day as they watched Kakarot carefully practicing energy manipulation designed to nurture rather than destroy. "He's learning," Goku replied, slowly but genuinely. "Yesterday he successfully revived a dead star system. Tomorrow we're going to try collaborative techniques." The breakthrough came when Kakarot finally managed to perform their signature move, the friendship-powered energy multiplication that had made them legendary across the multiverse. For the first time since his fall from grace, he experienced what it felt like to have his power enhanced by connection rather than diminished by it. "This feeling," he said, tears streaming down his face as golden energy flowed between the three warriors. I remember this. Before everything went wrong, before I lost everyone, this is what strength was supposed to feel like. The Grand Priest's arrival came as they were celebrating this breakthrough. The multiversal authority materialized in their dimensional nexus with his characteristic otherworldly grace, but his expression carried something approaching wonder. Remarkable, he said, studying the three warriors whose combined power now operated on scales that approached his own cosmic awareness. You've not only rehabilitated a being whose power had consumed an entire reality, you've created something entirely new. New how? Frieza asked, his reformed curiosity genuinely engaged. Collaborative transcendence, the Grand Priest explained. Your combined power signatures are beginning to generate what can only be described as metacosmic awareness. You're approaching the ability to nurture potential not just within individual beings or civilizations, but within the fundamental structure of reality itself. The implications were staggering. They had begun as two individuals seeking strength, evolved into friends whose partnership challenged cosmic order, and now stood on the threshold of becoming something that existed beyond normal categories of existence. What does that mean for our role as cosmic guardians? Goku asked. It means, the Grand Priest said with something approaching pride, that your role is evolving beyond guardianship into something unprecedented: cosmic cultivation. Your purpose will be to help entire realities reach their full potential. Over the following years, that's exactly what they became. Goku, Frieza, and Kakarot formed the core of a new type of cosmic service, one focused not on maintaining existing order, but on nurturing the growth of infinite possibility. They established training centers that existed between dimensions, where beings from across the multiverse could learn to transcend their original limitations. They mediated conflicts by helping opposing forces find common ground for mutual growth. Most importantly, they demonstrated through their own existence that strength guided by friendship could reshape the very nature of what was possible. Status report, Frieza said during one of their regular reviews, now managing a network that spanned not just universes but alternate realities. Universe 6's Collaborative Evolution Project just achieved their first multiversal breakthrough, Kakarot reported, his rehabilitation complete and his power now serving construction rather than destruction. And the refugee civilizations we've been helping have successfully established 3 new pocket dimensions for displaced peoples. Excellent, Goku said, floating in meditation as his consciousness monitored the flowering of potential across infinite realities. And the training centers, operating at capacity, Frieza replied with satisfaction. We now have students from realities we didn't even know existed, all learning to channel their unique abilities toward growth rather than dominance. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from a reality they had never encountered before, one where the fundamental forces operated according to completely alien principles. But instead of registering as a threat, the signature felt like a request for help. New students, Goku said with a grin, his enhanced senses painting a picture of beings whose potential was vast but completely unguided. Shall we? Frieza asked, already beginning transit calculations. Together, Kakarot added, his reformed perspective making him eager to pass on the gift of guided growth he had received. As they departed for their newest cosmic mission, the dimensional nexus they had created continued its work, a living testament to the power of friendship to transform not just individuals, but the very nature of existence itself. They had begun as enemies, evolved into friends, transcended into cosmic guardians, and finally achieved something beyond all precedent, beings whose very existence made the universe more capable of nurturing infinite potential. The legend of Goku's incredible power had become something far greater than any individual achievement. It had become proof that the strongest force in any reality was the choice to help others become the best possible versions of themselves. In the end, the guardian of infinite growth was not any single being, but the friendship that made all growth possible. And across the infinite expanse of the multiverse, potential bloomed wherever that friendship chose to shine its light. The end. And there you have it, Goku's incredible journey from martial artist to cosmic guardian of infinite growth. What was your favorite moment? The tournament awakening, the epic Frieza fight, or that final multiversal transformation? Drop your thoughts below, subscribe for more epic what-if scenarios, and let me know what crazy concepts you want next. Peace out.